Chapter 87. Although the people of Hao Ranjin's sect hated the Demon Sword sect, Shura Gate, and Jinbu Gate for taking advantage of the situation, they had no time to care about it. They could only watch as the Demon Sword sect, Shura Gate, and Jinbu Gate ran amok in their territory. They were determined to get even with them after this disaster. 2 days after the gathering, Guli City and Fian City, where the 7 major forces were, launched a massive attack on Xianyun City and Jinlua City, where the Hao Ranjin sect was stationed. The huge number of people caused the earth to tremble under their feet. Facing an enemy several times their number, the people of Hao Ranjin's sect showed no fear or retreat. Seeing the large number of Marquis Wu, King Wu, and Wu Zun flying in the sky, Yi Tianzong and the Hao Ranjin sect's King Wu and Wu Zun also flew up to meet them. As for the 300 or so Marquis Wu, they stayed on the battlefield according to Yi Tianzong's instructions to deal with some of the Marquis Wu sent by the enemy. This was to prevent the Marquis Wu from recklessly attacking the Hao Ranjin sect's Wuzong forces. Each of the 300 or so Marquis Wu was holding 3 exploding flame pearls given by Yi Tianzong. According to Yi Tianzong, the exploding flame pearls had the effect of exploding like gunpowder, but its power was hundreds or thousands of times more powerful. After each exploding flame pearl exploded, it was enough to kill anyone below King Wu realm within a radius of 3 miles. Even a King Wu realm expert would be blown to smithereens by the exploding flame pearl. These exploding flame pearls were the playthings that Yi Tianzong used to practice when he was learning how to refine weapons in his previous life. He had refined thousands of them, but in the end, they were all thrown into the boundless immortal mansion. This time, when they were facing a large number of enemies, Yi Tianzong found them and put them to good use. He believed that the enemies would definitely suffer heavy casualties. When Ling Xinyue went to Jinlua City, Yi Tianzong gave her a total of 1,500 jade talismans, which were stored in her interspatial ring. In addition, there were also 30 jade talismans, which were made in the immortal mansion over the years, that contained Yi Tianzong's full strength attack. Even if they encountered a large number of Wu Zun and King Wu, Ling Xinyue, Yi Yuanshan, and the others' safety was guaranteed. Thinking of Yi Tianzong's words, the Marquis Wu of the Hao Ranjin sect looked at the huge number of enemies attacking them, their eyes flashing with cold, killing intent. Standing on the city wall of Xianyun City and watching the endless number of enemies approaching the city wall, the 300 Marquis Wu each held exploding flame bead. Then they circulated their Jinyuan and threw the exploding flame beads at the enemy's rear with all their strength. They threw the exploding flame beads as far as 7 or 8 miles away. Then they could only see bursts of exploding flames accompanied by thick black smoke and deafening sounds. After each exploding flame bead exploded, the area within a radius of 3 miles was dead silent. This time, the explosion of the 300 exploding flame beads caused more than 300,000 casualties on the side of the 7 major forces. All of a sudden, the people of the 7 major forces were stunned, and the great momentum of the attack came to an abrupt end. However, the enemy's attack had stopped. The 300 martial marquises who had thrown out the exploding flame beads were not distracted. Instead, they took advantage of this great opportunity to throw out another exploding flame bead at the enemy who was about to reach the city walls. This time, they controlled their strength and threw the 300 exploding flame beads to a place about 4 miles away from the city wall of Xianyun City. As a result, when the people of the 7 major forces were still hesitating, the exploding flame beads that were thrown out exploded again, killing nearly 300,000 people at once. This time, the enemies were completely terrified. They no longer talked about attacking, and all retreated in panic to a place about 5 miles away. On the battlefield below, righteous orthodoxy had used the exploding flame pearls to wipe out around 600,000 enemies in a short period of time. Not only did this strike fear into the hearts of the people from the 7 major factions, Even the people fighting in the sky had noticed the situation below. Unfortunately, facing King Wu and Wu Zun of the Haoranjin sect, led by Yi Tianzong, all the experts of the major forces fighting in the sky could hardly protect themselves. At the beginning of the battle, Yi Tianzong led the experts of the Haoranjin sect, King Wu and Wu Zun, to directly meet the enemy, facing more than 100 Wu Zun, more than 800 King Wu, and more than 2,000 Marquis Wu coming from the sky. Yi Tianzong took the lead. Relying on the Aurora Flash Shadow and his invincible strength, he directly rushed into the center of thousands of people before the enemies could react. Then he fully unleashed the Qian Kuan force field, which directly shrouded Yi Tianzong within a radius of 2 miles. Because they didn't expect Yi Tianzong to suddenly launch an attack, the enemies flew in a dense formation. Therefore, most of Wu Zun, King Wu, and Marquis Wu were restrained by the Qian Kuan force field. Marquis Wu, King Wu, and Wu Zun, who were suddenly shrouded by the Qian Kuan force field, suddenly felt that something was wrong. Their rich combat experience allowed them to react immediately. They all mobilized all the strength in their bodies to break free from the restraint of the Qian Kuan force field. Using the Qian Kuan force field to bind so many enemies at once was also a huge burden and consumption for Yi Tianzong's current strength. However, Yi Tianzong didn't expect the Qian Kuan force field to bind so many people completely. He just needed to buy some time. When most of the enemies, including Wu Zun, King Wu, and Marquis Wu, were still trying their best to break free, Yi Tianzong took advantage of this opportunity to launch an all-out attack. His body rotated at high speed in the air. The 129,600 acupoints in his body and the power in his dantian were all mobilized. The almost endless power was all transformed into sharp sword qi, which was emitted from all parts of Yi Tianzong's body. With Yi Tianzong as the center, the endless sword qi shot out in all directions, covering the space within a radius of 5 miles. Those Wu Zun, King Wu, and Marquis Wu, who had just broken free from the Qian Kuan force field, did not even have time to disperse before they were drowned by the sword qi. Angry curses and miserable screams rang out incessantly. The endless sword qi continued to shoot out from Yi Tianzong's body, until Yi Tianzong had consumed 60% of the power in his body. Because he had consumed more than half of his Zhanyuan, Yi Tianzong was a little out of breath and his face was a little pale. After Yi Tianzong stopped attacking, the result of the battle that had been drowned by the sword qi was revealed. Of the nearly 2,000 enemies who had been drowned by the sword qi, only less than 70 people were left. All of the Marquis Wu, King Wu, and some of the Wu Zun were dead. Nothing was left. Only less than 70 Wu Zun survived. However, those who survived were all seriously injured. Many of them couldn't even maintain basic flight and were teetering in the sky. Seeing that there were less than 70 Wu Zun left, Yi Tianzong was not stunned. Instead, he continued to exert the Qian Kuan force field, binding the surviving Wu Zun again. This time, those who were seriously injured did not have the strength to break free. They were killed one after another by Yi Tianzong's sword qi. After eliminating the enemies in front of him, Yi Tianzong had time to check the situation around him. The remaining enemies had already fought with Yi Haoran and other Haoranjin sect's King Wu and Wu Zun. However, although there were still more than 1,000 enemies in this battle, most of them were Marquis Wu, who was the weakest. King Wu only had less than 200 strong people. To deal with the remaining enemies, Yi Haoran and nearly 140 King Wu and Wu Zun, it could be said that it was very easy for them to directly crush them. Chapter 88. Although Yi Haoran and the others did not feel any pressure, they wanted to end the battle quickly and join the battle below as soon as possible. They wanted to reduce the casualties of Haoranjin sect so that they could counterattack and take revenge on the enemy. Yi Tianzong immediately joined the ranks of the battle. He quickly traversed the battlefield in the air, casually waving out sharp and unstoppable sword chi, attacking all the enemies within a radius of 3 miles. Yi Tianzong easily reaped the lives of the enemies. With Yi Tianzong's participation, all the Marquis Wu and King Wu were eliminated in less than half an hour. After the enemies in the air were eliminated, Yi Tianzong said to Yi Haoren and the others, "Let's go down. It's time to counterattack and settle accounts. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. Today, we must annihilate the so-called 7 great powers." After saying that, Yi Tianzong flew down to the top of the Xianyan city wall and said to the disciples of Hao Ranjin sect, "Begin the counterattack. A debt of blood must be paid with blood." After saying that, Yi Tianzong once again flew to the top of the 7 forces army that had retreated 10 miles away. Looking at the enemies below who had begun to retreat because of the destruction of their high-end forces, Yi Tianzong's eyes were cold. He took out the exploding flame beads and threw them in 2 different directions, one in each hand. Then, flames shot out in all directions and thick smoke exploded. In an instant, all the creatures within a radius of 3 miles of the explosion were wiped out. More than 4 million people from the 7 forces army were blown up by the exploding flame beads. Their bodies were smashed into pieces and their organs were torn apart. Everyone frantically fled in all directions, wishing that they had been born with a few more legs. Yi Tianzong flew in the air and looked down at the enemy below. Yi Tianzong threw the exploding flame beads wherever the enemies were densely packed. In this way, Yi Tianzong was in charge of clearing out the dense enemy formation at the front, while Yi Haoren, King Wu, Wu Zun, and Marquis Wu led nearly 1 million Haoren disciples in pursuit. Yi Tianzong threw out more than 500 exploding flame pearls, killing about 700,000 people. Even Marquis Wu, who was on the battlefield, was either killed by the exploding flame pearls or Yi Tianzong's sword energy. The people of the 7 major forces were all scared out of their wits and fled. The high-level masters of the Hao Ranjun sect led the Haoren disciples in a mad chase. The eyes of the Hao Ranjun sect members were filled with intense hatred as they chased after their enemies with all their might. How could they not hate him? Originally, the Hao Ranjun sect had broken the seal of heaven and earth and increased the world's upper limit of martial arts. This was a good thing for the warriors. Moreover, the Hao Ranjin sect was quietly developing its strength and did not have any intention of starting a war. However, those super forces that appeared in the world insisted on suppressing and targeting the Hao Ranjin sect. They did not give the Hao Ranjin sect any chance of survival and launched an invasion of the Hao Ranjin sect. This war lasted for 10 years. In 10 years, the Hao Ranjun sect lost more than 500,000 people. This was a huge blow to the Hao Ranjun sect. Many people's relatives, friends, teachers, and brothers died in the war. How could the people of the Hao Ranjun sect not hate the culprits, the enemies of the 7 major forces? They could not wait to tear them into pieces. The Great Escape and the Great Pursuit continued. The nearly 1 million people of the righteous faction chased from morning to night for an entire day before stopping. Because of the darkness of the night, they had no choice but to return to Xianyan City, one after another, to recuperate. After a whole day of crazy pursuit, the disciples of the Hao Ranjin sect were exhausted and staggered back to their respective residences. Although they were very tired and even injured, everyone's face was filled with the joy of revenge. At this time, in the city lord's mansion of Xianyan City, Yi Tianzong, Yi Haoren, Yi Haoyun, and the high-level masters of the Hao Ranjin sect were all gathered in the hall. The hall was brightly lit and the atmosphere was harmonious and lively. Yi Haoren said to Yi Tianzong, "Tianzong, thank you for being here today. Otherwise, with such a powerful enemy, it would have been hard to predict what would have happened to all of us today." As soon as Yi Haoren finished speaking, Yi Haoyun continued, "That's right. Tianzong, you deserve the most credit for today's great victory, revenge, and the destruction of more than 3 million enemies. TSK, TSK, I didn't expect you to be so powerful and invincible after your success. Those Wu Zun and King Wu were killed by you without any chance to fight back. You're really strong. After Yi Haoyun finished speaking, the people sitting below began to praise Yi Tianzong's invincible strength, including those Wu Zun. They all looked at Yi Tianzong with awe in their eyes. Originally, they had overestimated Yi Tianzong's strength enough, but they didn't expect that they still underestimated him. As long as they thought of the endless and unstoppable sword energy that covered the sky and earth, and the destruction of nearly 2,000 people who were far stronger than them in a short time, everyone felt numb in their hearts. Yi Tianzong looked at everyone's awe-inspiring eyes, waved his hand and said, "It's nothing. Since they are the enemies of the Hao Ranjin sect, then I am duty-bound to destroy them. The war here has come to an end. Although we have won, it is not realistic to directly counterattack the enemy's base camp, which is too far away. We have been fighting for 10 years. What the sect needs now is to recuperate and gather strength. When we finish recuperating, it will be the time for our final revenge." Yi Tianzong paused, turned to Yi Haoran, and said, "Father, I'll leave this to you. I'm going to Jinlua City soon. The enemy there is not much weaker than here. The distance between the two places is more than 20,000 miles. The enemy there won't receive the news of our defeat in a short time. Although New Moon is not weak, and I have prepared some means, the situation there will be more difficult than here. I must go there immediately, or we will suffer more casualties." Yi Haoran said with a dignified look, "Don't worry, Tianzong. Leave this to us. Go to Jinlua City as soon as possible. You are right. The situation there will be more serious. If we don't rescue in time, our sect's disciples will suffer a lot of casualties." Yi Tianzong nodded and said, "Well, there is no time to lose. I'll go now." After that, Yi Tianzong disappeared from everyone's sight, leaving only an afterimage that slowly dissipated. Once again, everyone present was amazed by Yi Tianzong's unfathomable strength. After leaving Xianyun City, Yi Tianzong flew through the sky and rushed to Jinlua City, which was more than 20,000 miles away. Because of his realm, which was far beyond his strength, and the vast power of his spirit, Yi Tianzong was able to use the power of Wu Sheng realm in advance. With the help of some of the mysteries of the space law, Yi Tianzong finally arrived at Jinlua City before the sun rose. Smelling the strong smell of blood in the air, and seeing the battlefield full of corpses with the help of the faint light, Yi Tianzong knew that a very fierce battle must have taken place in Jinlua City. Haoran's disciples must have suffered a lot of casualties. He just didn't know how Xin Yue and his grandfather were doing. Were they injured? Thinking of this, Yi Tianzong didn't alert anyone. He flew directly to the city Lord Mansion of Jinlua City from the sky. He knew that Xin Yue and his grandfather must be in the city Lord Mansion. He stopped in the sky above the city Lord Mansion. At this time, the sky was still dark. There was only a faint light. Yi Tianzong restrained his aura and scanned the city Lord Mansion with his spirit. Finally, he found Ling Xinyue in a room. Then his figure flashed and disappeared in the sky. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in the room where Ling Xinyue was. Chapter 89. At this time, Ling Xinyue, who had gone through a difficult battle yesterday, was recuperating. After coming out of seclusion at Tiangang Peak, Yi Tianzong asked about the current situation of the Hao Ranjin sect. Then he asked Ling Xinyue to ride the most powerful goshawk domesticated by the Hao Ranjin sect to Jinlua City. This most powerful goshawk was comparable to a Marquis Wu and could fly at a speed of 30,000 miles per day. On the third day after Ling Xinyue rode the goshawk to Jinlua City, Fian City, where the 7 major factions were located, launched a huge attack, similar to the situation that Yi Tianzong was facing in Xianyun City. The 7 major factions attacked from Fian City. There were also more than 100 Wu Zun, 800 King Wu, 2,000 Marquis Wu, and more than 3 million troops. Although the number of experts they faced was less than that of Yi Tianzong's group, the gap was not big. When the powerful enemies attacked, the Hao Ranjin sect was at a disadvantage. Naturally, they defended the city. On the sky battlefield, Ling Xinyue, Yi Yuanshan Li Qingya, and Li Qingshi led the Hao Ranjin sect's experts, Wu Zun, King Wu, and Marquis Wu, to fight the enemies with difficulty. Fortunately, the enemies Wu Zun, King Wu, and Marquis Wu far outnumbered the Hao Ranjin sect. Relying on their numbers, the enemies of the 7 major factions thought that victory was assured and relaxed a lot. When they flew toward the Hao Ranjin sect's group, they were more closely packed. Seeing this opportunity, Ling Xinyue, Yi Yuanshan, Li Qingya, and Li Qingshi looked at each other and then used Aurora Flash with all their might, instantly arriving in front of the enemy. Seeing that Ling Xinyue's group of 4 had taken the initiative to approach them, the 100 or so Wu Zun flying at the front were shocked and felt that something was wrong. They instinctively wanted to spread out and hide. However, at this moment, Ling Xinyue, Yi Tianzong, Li Qingya, and Li Qingshi each crushed a jade talisman made by Yi Tianzong. The moment the jade talisman was crushed, for violent and ferocious forces containing Yi Tianzong's full strength gushed out, directly attacking all the enemies in front of Ling Xinyue and the others. The vast and invincible force, storm, swept across. In just a moment, more than 400 people from Wu Zun, King Wu, and Marquis Wu of the 7 major factions were killed or injured. After crushing the jade talismans, Ling Xinyue, Yi Yuanshan, Li Qingya, and Li Qingshi did not hesitate. They took out another jade talisman and looked at the enemies who had just been swept away by the violent attack. The more than 2,000 Marquis Wu at the rear of the enemy were not affected much and had not had time to disperse. Therefore, Ling Xinyue, Li Qingya, and the others seized the opportunity and came to the front of the Marquis Wu in a flash. They crushed the jade talismans in their hands again, and 4 violent forces swept across again. These Marquis Wu were not like King Wu and Wu Zun. More than half of them were killed or injured, and less than 700 people were left. After crushing the jade talismans, Ling Xinyue, Li Qingya, and the others did not make any extra movements. Instead, they directly returned to the Hao Ranjin sect's camp and looked at the enemies in front of them vigilantly. After being swept away by the 8 violent forces containing Yi Tianzong's full strength, the enemies of the 7 major factions were only left with more than 80 Wu Zun, more than 400 King Wu, and less than 700 Marquis Wu. Their strength was sharply reduced. However, after their strength was sharply reduced, they still surpassed the strength of the Hao Ranjin sect. After suddenly suffering such a great loss, the remaining enemies naturally would not let this matter rest. However, they were also wary of the Hao Ranjin sect's people and the powerful killing weapon just now. For the time being, they did not act rashly. Instead, they confronted the people of the Hao Ranjin sect. This time, the enemies were more vigilant and kept a distance from each other. On the battlefield in the sky, just as the people of the 7 major factions were confronting the Hao Ranjin sect, the battlefield on the ground also changed. Marquis Wu, who stayed on the ground of the Hao Ranjin sect, saw that the enemies were about to attack, so he threw the exploding flame pearls that Ling Xinyue had brought over at the enemies of the 7 major factions. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of explosions rang out one after another, and the earth seemed to be on the verge of exploding. The explosion of each exploding flame pearl meant that all living things within a radius of 3 miles were wiped out. More than 600 exploding flame pearls exploded, and the enemies of the 7 major factions suffered heavy casualties from the explosions. They lost more than 600,000 people in an instant. The enemies didn't expect that the righteous sect would have such a trump card. Their morale was completely shaken by the continuous explosions, and they hurriedly retreated 10 miles away in fear. The people in the sky naturally noticed the changes on the battlefield on the ground. Naturally, the experts of the Hao Ranjin sect were happy with such an outcome. However, the faces of the enemies on the other side were all gloomy, and they gritted their teeth. The experts of the 7 major factions looked at the people of the Hao Ranzhen sect with hatred, and they were thinking of a countermeasure. It was absolutely impossible for them to retreat just like that. These people were all from the various super factions. They had mobilized so many people in order to completely destroy the Hao Ranzhen sect. Now that they had suffered heavy losses and they had not achieved any results, how could they retreat with their tails between their legs? At this moment, Wu Zun from the 7 Invincible sect said they definitely did not use many of those killing moves just now. It's very likely that they have exhausted all their skills and are just trying to scare us. We must not be fooled by them. Moreover, based on my observation, only the 4 people at the front of the Hao Ranzhen sect have such a move. The others do not. As long as we split up and attack from afar, we can surround and attack those 4 people from all sides. I don't believe that we can't defeat them. As soon as he said this, everyone from the 7 major factions, regardless of whether they had any grudges with the people of the 7 Invincible sect, agreed with him. Now was not the time for internal strife. Destroying the Hao Ranzhen sect was the most important thing. After deciding on the battle strategy, Wu Zun, King Wu, and Marquis Wu from the 7 major factions no longer held back. Instead, they launched an attack on the people of the Hao Ranzhen sect. At the same time, they transmitted a message to the people on the ground to attack again. The enemies who had suffered a great loss just now were gnashing their teeth in hatred of the Hao Ranzhen sect. Once they launched an attack, they did not have any intention of holding back. As far as the eye could see, there seemed to be countless sword rays, saber rays, claw prints, palm prints, and fist prints of various colors surging towards the people of the Hao Ranzhen sect. On the sky battlefield, the people of the Hao Ranzhen sect were still in a 1 versus many situation. Fortunately, the strength of the enemies had decreased sharply. Although the people of the Hao Ranzhen sect were in a difficult and dangerous situation, they were still able to hold on. The enemies spread out and attacked from afar. This indeed made things difficult for Ling Xinyue, Li Qingya, and the other 3 people. As a result, the killing effect of the Jade Talisman was greatly reduced. Although Ling Xinyue was much stronger than Yi Tianzong and the others, and was not at a disadvantage when facing more than 10 Wu Zun experts, there was still a large gap in strength between her and Yi Tianzong. She was unable to eliminate many enemies at once. On the contrary, because of the strength she displayed, she was besieged by more and more Wu Zun experts. In the end, she could only barely hold on. The situation was not good. Just as Ling Xinyue, Yi Yuanshan, and the other higher-ups of the Hao Ranzhen sect were in a difficult battle on the sky battlefield, the people of the 7 major factions on the ground launched another attack on Jinluo City. This time, there were no explosions at first. The enemies were relieved. The people running at the front began to come into contact with the people of the Hao Ranzhen sect and began to fight fiercely. Just as the battle was getting more and more intense, Marquis Wu of the Hao Ranzhen sect looked at the endless sea of enemies. Once again, he threw exploding flame pearls at the enemy's back. Boom! 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 The world-shaking explosions rang out once more. Yet again, large swaths of enemies were blasted into nothingness. One after another, explosive flame beads exploded. Hundreds of explosive flame beads were thrown out, killing hundreds of thousands of enemies in the process. This time, the people of the 7 major factions were completely scared out of their wits. Seeing the explosions everywhere, they no longer cared about attacking Jinluo City and retreated. This was the difference between a warrior and an army. A warrior's priority on the battlefield was to protect his own life. In the face of danger, survival was the most important thing. An army, on the other hand, was to obey orders. Unless there were special circumstances, they would not retreat because of danger. Once again, a deafening explosion rang out from below. The people of the 7 major factions who were fighting in the sky noticed that the attacking troops on the ground had retreated because of the heavy casualties. Immediately, they were so angry that their attacks on the people of the Hao-Ranjin sect also paused for a moment. Taking advantage of this rare opportunity, Ling Xinyue, Li Qingya, and the others took out another jade talisman and directly crushed it in front of the enemies surrounding them. The moment the jade talisman was crushed, another wave of violent energy gushed out. Some of the people of Wu Zun's side who were still attacking Ling Xinyue, Yi Yuanshan, and the others were immediately affected by the violent and invincible energy. Although they were relatively far away, they were still within the range of the energy storm. In the end, all of them suffered serious injuries. After crushing one jade talisman, Ling Xinyue and the others took out another jade talisman. While the enemies were still in shock, they quickly approached the nearest enemy and crushed the jade talisman in their hands again. Another 4 waves of energy storm swept across and injured another group of people. F*CK, there's still more. God is so F*King unfair. The enemies who tasted the bitter fruit once again cursed in their hearts. They stopped fighting and left the battlefield one after another. Once again, they confronted the people of the Hao-Ranjin sect. Just as they were confronting each other, the people of the 7 major factions saw Ling Xinyue, Yi Yuanshan, Li Qingya, and Li Qingshi at the front take out another jade talisman. They held it in their hands and looked at the people of the 7 major factions fearlessly. F*CK, there's no way to fight anymore. The people of the Hao-Ranjin sect are simply cheating. Chapter 90. The experts from the 7 forces looked at the people from the Hao-Ranjin sect with ghastly expressions on their faces. Their killing intent and anger surged in their hearts. They had suffered heavy losses on the battlefield below and had to retreat without achieving anything. In the sky battlefield, their strength had also been greatly reduced. On the other hand, the Hao-Ranjin sect had not suffered heavy casualties and even had trump cards that they had not used up. This time their attack, which they had been full of confidence in, had completely failed. After 2 fruitless attacks, the people from the 7 forces were at a stalemate for a while. In the end, they reluctantly retreated. Looking at the enemies who had retreated, Ling Xinyue, Yi Yuanshan, and the other experts from the Hao-Ranjin sect heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the people from the Hao-Ranjin sect did not suffer many casualties. In fact, each person was fighting one against many. The battle had consumed a lot of energy. If they continued to fight, problems would quickly arise. The battle during the day had ended. The enemies from the 7 forces had retreated. However, the enemies had mobilized so many people. They would not stop attacking just because they had suffered heavy losses. Once they found a way to deal with the situation, they would definitely launch another attack. While Ling Xinyue was regulating her breathing, Yi Tianzong came to the door and pushed it open. Ling Xinyue immediately stood up. Her expression was serious, as if she was facing a formidable enemy. She shouted, "Who is it?" Yi Tianzong said softly, "Xinyue, it's me." With that, Yi Tianzong walked into the room and saw Ling Xinyue. When Ling Xinyue saw Yi Tianzong, her cold and beautiful face immediately lit up with joy. Like a swallow returning to its nest, she threw herself into Yi Tianzong's arms and hugged Yi Tianzong tightly. Yi Tianzong smiled as he hugged Ling Xinyue. He felt the lovely person in his arms. He stroked Ling Xinyue's hair and sniffed it gently. Yi Tianzong carried Ling Xinyue to the bedside and sat down. He asked, "How was the battle? Are you injured?" Ling Xinyue nestled in Yi Tianzong's arms and said softly, "It's just a minor injury. It's nothing serious. Yesterday, the enemy launched an attack, but because of the jade talismans and exploding flame pearls you gave us, we didn't suffer many casualties. The enemy, on the other hand, suffered many casualties and retreated. Grandfather and grandmother also suffered some minor injuries and have already taken some pills." When Yi Tianzong heard Ling Xinyue's words, he thought, "The situation is better than I thought." Then he said, Well, leave the rest to me. Xianyan City has been solved. I will not let the enemy go. I will not let them go. Ling Xinhua nodded and stopped talking. She continued to snuggle in Yi Tianzong's arms. Then she was brought into the mortal mansion by Yi Tianzong to rest. After another 2 hours, the sky was already bright. Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinhua walked out of the house and went directly to the hall of the city, Lord's mansion. Then they gathered all the high-level officials of the Hao Ranjin sect in Jinlua City. Suddenly seeing Yi Tianzong, everyone was surprised and happy. Looking at everyone who had arrived, Yi Tianzong briefly explained the battle in Xianyan City. Then he said, "The battle in Xianyan City yesterday has been solved. The enemy Wu Zun, King Wu, and Marquis Wu were also wiped out. More than 2 million enemies were killed. There are only some things left to deal with. I was worried about the situation here, so I rushed over overnight. It seems that the situation is not as bad as I thought." After hearing Yi Tianzong's words, Yi Yuanshan laughed and said in a loud voice, "Well, I didn't expect that the battle in Xianyan City would be over. We still won. Good, it's really good. Ha! Tianzong, you are indeed the stabilizing force of our Hao Ranjin sect. Nothing can stop you. Speaking of the battle yesterday, thanks to what you gave us. Otherwise, we would have been in real danger." Li Qingya looked at Yi Tianzong lovingly and said with a smile, "That's right. If we hadn't taken advantage of the enemy's carelessness and made them lose a lot of people by surprise, we might not have survived." And the exploding flame bead scared the enemy out of their wits. "Tianzong, you are so powerful. You even prepared a fatal blow." After Li Qingya finished speaking, Li Qingshi also praised Yi Tianzong. Waving his hand to stop other people's praises, Yi Tianzong immediately said, "Since we didn't lose much strength, I plan to launch a counterattack today. At that time, the enemy Wu Zun, King Wu, and Marquis will be handed over to the 5 of us and Wu Zun of the sect to deal with. The rest of the sect's King Wu and Marquis Wu will lead the disciples to attack Fian City. The war has been going on for 10 years. We must make the enemy pay with blood and completely eliminate them." After Yi Tianzong finished speaking, no one objected. They decided to launch a counterattack and take revenge. Everyone went out to prepare and mobilize their forces. 2 hours later, all the people of the Hao Ranjin sect were mobilized. After Yi Tianzong appeared and said something to mobilize them for revenge, nearly 1 million disciples of the Hao Oran sect, whose confidence was greatly boosted, stepped out of Jinlua City majestically and went straight to Fian City, where the enemy was. The Hao Ranjin sect, which had been in a defensive state, suddenly took the initiative to launch a large-scale attack. The people of the 7 major forces in Fian City quickly got into battle mode and looked at the Hao Ranjin sect's troops, who were gradually approaching. The main forces of the Hao Ranjin sect stopped 1 mile away from Fian City. Then they divided into 4 forces and surrounded Fian City in 4 directions. After completing the encirclement, Ling Xinhua, Yi Yuanshan, Li Qingya, and Li Qingshi, as well as 17 Wu Zun experts of the Hao Ranjin sect, flew directly to Fian City from the sky. When Yi Tianzong and the others flew toward the 7 major forces, Wu Zun, King Wu, and Marquis Wu, who were in Fian City on the opposite side, also flew into the sky. They wanted to stop Ling Xinhua and the others. However, at the moment when the experts of the 7 major forces flew into the sky, an unforeseen event suddenly happened. Yi Tianzong did not swagger toward Fian City like Ling Xinhua and the others. Instead, he hid in the main forces of the Hao Ranjin sect on the ground. Yi Tianzong suddenly appeared when the enemies in Fian City had just flown into the sky and had not dispersed. A similar scene occurred again. Yi Tianzong exerted his heaven and earth force field with all his strength and once again enveloped most of the enemies. Taking advantage of the fact that no one could break free from the heaven and earth force field, the overwhelming and unstoppable sword chi storm appeared again. Within a radius of 3 miles, Not only did it drown the enemies within the range of the heaven and earth force field, but also the enemies on the ground in Fian City. This time, there were fewer enemies. Yi Tianzong only used 30% of his strength to eliminate the enemies covered by the heaven and earth force field. Wu Zun, King Wu, and Marquis Wu, who originally numbered close to 1,000 people, had already disappeared from the sky above Fian City after the Sword Qi storm. The hundreds of people who were lucky enough to survive when Yi Tianzong's Sword Qi storm broke out were frightened. Seeing that the situation was not good, they immediately fled to the back of Fian City. Ling Xinyue and the others did not have time to stop them. At the same time, tens of thousands of enemies were eliminated in Fian City below. Well, they did not even intervene. Ling Xinyue and the others, who were flying in the air, looked at each other strangely. They could not help but feel shocked by Yi Tianzong's strength. After eliminating the enemies, Yi Tianzong looked down at the sea of people in Fian City below. He turned to the Hao Ranzhen sect's King Wu, who were surrounding Fian City in 4 directions, and said, "Attack!" Then he threw blowing flame pearls down toward Fian City below. In Yi Tianzong's eyes, blowing flame pearls were low-end weapons of mass destruction. Besides the ones he used, Yi Tianzong still had more than 3,000 blowing flame pearls. In order to kill as many enemies as possible, Yi Tianzong took out more than 300 blowing flame pearls and distributed them to the Wu King realm and Wu Zun realm members of the Hao Ranjin sect. Including the ones he did not use up yesterday, everyone had 4 blowing flame pearls in their hands. Using blowing flame pearls in the city was much more effective than using them outside the city. The people in the city were very dense. 1 blowing flame pearl could kill at least twice as many people as outside the city. Fian City was only a little more than 20 square miles at most. 1 blowing flame pearl could directly kill people within a radius of 3 miles. More than 100 members of the Hao Ranjin sect, Wu King realm, and Wu Zun realm flew into the sky and threw blowing flame pearls into Fian City. Instantly, the 2 million plus people in the city were blasted to the point where they had nowhere to run to. Those who tried to open the city gates and escape were all intercepted and killed by the Hao Ranjin sect's forces. By the time they had basically used up all of their blowing flame pearls, Fian City was covered in raging flames and thick smoke. There were practically no buildings left intact. The 2 million plus people from the 7 major factions were basically all dead. The entire city and the air above it was filled with thick smoke and blood. Without much effort, the 2 million plus enemies in Fian City had been completely wiped out. The results were even greater and more thorough than what they had achieved in Shenyang City. The main reason was that this time, the enemies were passively defending. They were all gathered in the city. When blowing flame pearls fell, they were surrounded like dumplings and had no time to escape. When they won in Shenyang City, the enemies did not enter Gully City when they fled. Instead, they fled in the wilderness. Naturally, it was impossible to wipe them all out. In this counterattack, aside from some King Wu realm and Marquis Wu realm members who had fled at the beginning, the rest were all wiped out. Including the results of the battle in Shenyang City, they had wiped out nearly 6 million people from the 7 major factions, more than 200 Wu Zun realm members, more than 1,500 King Wu realm members, and more than 4,000 Marquis Wu realm members. It could be said that the forces of the 7 major factions had been wiped out in this decisive battle. They no longer had the strength to attack the Hao Ranjin sect. As for the various major factions who had tried to suppress and destroy the Hao Ranjin sect, they had gone for wool and come home shorn. Before they were completely confident they would not be able to target the Hao Ranjin sect in the near future. Chapter 91. The battle between Hao Ranjin sect and Jinlua City ended with the victory of Hao Ranjin sect. This meant that Hao Ranjin sect had overcome this crisis. After fighting for 10 years and overcoming the crisis, Hao Ranjin sect took back the territories occupied by Demon Sword sect, Shura Gate, and Jinbu Gate. After giving the other 3 sects a warning, Hao Ranjin sect began to recuperate. After 10 years of continuous fighting, Hao Ranjin sect had lost more than 500,000 people. They had lost nearly 1/5 of their strength and urgently needed to restore their strength. As for Demon Sword sect, Shura Gate, and Jinbu Gate, these 3 troublemakers, they would be completely eliminated after Hao Ranjin's sect recovered. Originally, Yi Tianzong had wanted to keep them for the disciples of the sect to practice their skills. Now that he thought about it, he really didn't think it through. He didn't expect that so many superpowers would appear just after breaking the 2nd seal. If he hadn't come out in time, the Haran Orthodox sect would have been destroyed under the attack of so many forces, and their good situation would have been ruined. Since there were so many external enemies and the world was so big, there was no point in keeping Demon Sword sect, Jinbu Gate, and Shura Gate alive. After resting for a while, Yi Tianzong planned to completely destroy these 3 sections. When the time came, he would directly occupy the territories of these 3 sections. After digesting them, he would take revenge on the 7 superpowers. In any case, the 7 superpowers were now crippled. The Zhou dynasty couldn't even take care of itself now. Who could stop Hao Ranjin's sect? However, now that Hao Ranjin's sect was recuperating, Yi Tianzong also had his own plan. He planned to teach those superpowers who participated in the attack on Hao Ranjin's sect a lesson. He would first collect some interest from them. No matter what, he couldn't just let them attack for nothing and leave them alone. So what if they were far away? Yi Tianzong still wanted to make those superpowers regret provoking Hao Ranjin's sect. If he didn't teach them a lesson, Yi Tianzong wouldn't be at ease. When Yi Tianzong said this idea, the higher-ups of Hao Ranjin's sect unanimously agreed. When asked what Yi Tianzong needed to prepare and help, Yi Tianzong said, "You don't need to prepare anything. Just me and Xinhua are enough." After saying this, Yi Tianzong took out Exploding Flame Pearl and said, "Don't forget this thing. I still have a lot of Exploding Flame Pearls. Xinhua and I can go anywhere in the world." Since these superpowers don't know gratitude and repay kindness with enmity, we'll let them know how powerful Hao Ran's sect is. Do they think they cans because they is far away? They don't think they are far sects. Humph. After Yi Tianzong finished speaking, no one in Haran Hall objected. Indeed, with Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue's strength, there was basically no place that could trap them. When the time came, they could fly in the sky and throw the exploding flame pearls down. Those unprepared enemy forces would definitely suffer heavy casualties, even if the enemy chased after Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue. They might not be able to defeat the 2 of them. Perhaps their high-level combat power would be wiped out by Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue. Imagining Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue blowing up those enemies until they suffered heavy casualties and the enemies couldn't catch up with them, all the higher-ups of Hao Ranjin sect couldn't help but feel elated. They wished they could do it themselves. After deciding on the plan, Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue continued to stay on Tiangang Peak for 2 more days before setting off. Their first stop was the 7 superpowers closest to Hao Ranjin sect. They were also the main culprits that caused the Hao Ranjin sect to fall into a crisis. Xianyuan sect was one of the 7 superpowers closest to Hao Ranjin sect after the 2nd layer of the seal of heaven and earth was broken. At this time, the atmosphere in Xianyuan sect was gloomy. In the decisive battle with Hao Ranjin sect a few days ago, Xianyuan sect lost almost 90% of its strength. The higher-ups of the sect who went out to fight were also completely wiped out. Currently, only a few higher-ups of the sect who were stationed in the sect were left to preside over the overall situation. They were constantly worried about Hao Ranjin sect's revenge. These days, the atmosphere was gloomy. The few Marquis Wu elders who were in charge of the overall situation in Xianyuan sect suddenly felt uneasy, as if a great disaster was about to befall them. Under this uneasy feeling, They thought of how Ranjin's sect and instinctively realized the source of their uneasiness. Therefore, they decisively issued an order to evacuate the disciples. However, it was already too late. At this moment, Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue had already arrived above Xianyuan's sect. Looking down at Xianyuan's sect, Yi Tianzong stood in the air with Ling Xinyue in his arms. Without saying anything, he directly threw down 7 exploding inferno pearls. Just as the few marquis Wu elders of Xianyuan, sect below them, gave the order, the exploding inferno pearls thrown down by Yi Tianzong exploded. With a series of earth-shattering explosions, the earth shook and the mountains shook. Once again, 70 to 80% of the remaining people of Xianyuan sect were killed or injured. There were not many people left. The few marquis Wu elders were also smashed into pieces by the exploding inferno pearls. After throwing down the exploding inferno pearls, Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue waited for a quarter of an hour. Seeing that there were no enemies chasing after them, they did not stay any longer and continued on to their next target. If Yi Tianzong was strong enough now, he would definitely not mind wiping out Xianyuan sect. This would save the disciples of Hao Ranjin sect the trouble of attacking Xianyuan sect in the future. However, although Yi Tianzong could use his primordial spirit to find the secret territory of Xianyuan sect, Yi Tianzong's current strength was not enough to destroy a secret territory, let alone seal it. It was even more unrealistic to blindly find someone who could open the secret territory among the survivors of Xianyuan sect. He could only give Xianyuan sect an unforgettable lesson first. When the new sect master of Xianyuan sect took over, he could capture him and directly search his soul. Once Yi Tianzong entered the secret territory, he would be able to do whatever he wanted. After leaving Xianyuan sect, Yi Tianzong brought Ling Xinyue to visit the other 6 superforces. The remaining 6 superforces suffered the same fate as Xianyuan sect. Their sect's encampment was turned into ruins by the exploding inferno pearls. Most of the remaining weak forces were killed, and the sect was on the verge of being destroyed. After taking revenge on the 7 superforces, Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue continued on their journey. According to the information provided by Tian Gang Building, they headed towards their next target. Along the way, they went sightseeing and were not in a hurry. After being reborn in the profound spirit world for more than 40 years, this was Yi Tianzong's first time visiting the profound spirit world. Now that the Hao Ranjin sect was recuperating, the enemies would not be able to do anything to the Hao Ranjin sect in a short period of time. Without any worries, Yi Tianzong naturally wanted to relax and experience the scenery of the profound spirit world. Just like that, Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue spent most of their time flying in the sky, overlooking the scenery of the profound spirit world. Occasionally, when they encountered injustice, they would stop and play the role of a chivalrous hero and help the weak. These experiences made Yi Tianzong recall the time when he first transmigrated to a low-level martial arts world. The feeling of holding a sword and wiping out the injustice of the world. Recalling the past events since he transmigrated, Yi Tianzong finally felt relieved and laughed a few times. Once again, he was determined to pursue his goal. His state of mind, which had not improved for a long time, had also improved a little. The vast and boundless sea of mind had once again calmed down after surging and churning. Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue walked and stopped along the way. In the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed. In these 2 years, the forces that had participated in the attack on the Hao Ranjin sect were all retaliated against by Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue. Every force had at least 7 exploding flame pearls thrown by Yi Tianzong. Their encampments were blown to smithereens. Caught off guard, all of them suffered heavy casualties. Even though some of the forces had received the news and made some preparations in advance and evacuated their disciples, after Yi Tianzong threw the exploding flame pearls, he saw that there were not many people left. Instead, he rushed down and massacred the upper echelons of those forces. Nearly 10 superforces had fought one after another. Those Wu Zun and King Wu were almost all killed by Yi Tianzong and Ling Xingyue. In the end, they had no choice but to beg for mercy. There were even more forces that were not convinced. They gathered a large number of Wu Zun and King Wu to ambush Yi Tianzong and Ling Xingyue. In the end, after many battles, they were beaten by the two and fled pathetically. Yi Tianzong directly threw more than 20 exploding flame pearls at each of the forces. Their encampments were almost blown to smithereens before they left. Chapter 92. It could be said that Yi Tianzong and Ling Xingyue had achieved a lot in the past 2 years. They had killed a lot of people. All the superpowers that they had visited had suffered heavy casualties, and their strength had been greatly reduced. All the superpowers in the Central Plains were wary of them, and they had been listed as a force they could not afford to provoke. At the same time, the superpowers that had been targeting the Hao-Ranjin sect had stopped their underhanded actions and secret plans, afraid that the Hao-Ranjin sect would take revenge on them. Over the past 2 years, Yi Tianzong and Ling Xingyue had traveled across a vast region and experienced the countless sceneries of the Central Plains. Now, the two had arrived at the final destination of their tour, the Zhou dynasty's royal city. Although the Zhou dynasty had been forced by many superpowers to give up a large portion of its territory, it was still the most powerful force in the Central Plains. The Zhou dynasty's royal city was the center of the Zhou dynasty. It was also the largest city in the Central Plains. Yi Tianzong was quite interested in this place and wanted to experience the atmosphere of the royal city. The Zhou dynasty's royal city was majestic and massive. After 2 expansions, the royal city now spanned hundreds of kilometers from east to west. It was several times larger than Harran City. At a glance, one would feel as if they were standing in front of a giant ancient beast. Compared to the royal city, any individual would seem insignificant. Yi Tianzong and Ling Xingyue had originally planned to queue up and enter the city like ordinary people. However, when they saw the large welcoming party at the city gates, they understood that their plan had failed. However, this was also within his expectations. Over the past 2 years, when he and New Moon had taken revenge on the various superpowers, they had not hidden their identities. As time passed, others would naturally find out about them. Moreover, he and New Moon had not deliberately hidden their tracks along the way, heading straight for the Zhou dynasty's royal city. It was impossible for the people of the Zhou dynasty not to know of their arrival. Yi Tianzong immediately understood the intentions of the Zhou dynasty. They were afraid that Yi Tianzong would cause trouble in royal city. There were all kinds of birds in the forest. As the capital of the great Zhou dynasty, the great Zhou dynasty's royal city naturally didn't lack arrogant and despotic people who used their power to bully others. Furthermore, he and New Moon's bloody battle results in the past 2 years were obtained by stepping on the various superpowers. Naturally, they weren't good-tempered people. If someone were to offend Yi Tianzong and Ling Xingyue with their tempers, they would definitely not swallow their anger. Once the matter got out of hand, the two of them would throw an explosive flame bead at each other. That would be a big joke. The explosive flame pearl's power had been tested by the various major powers over the past 2 years. Yi Tianzong and Ling Xingyue followed the crowd and walked towards the city gate at a leisurely pace. Meanwhile, the 2 leaders of the welcoming party had already spotted Yi Tianzong and Ling Xingyue in the crowd. Their auras were simply too eye-catching in the crowd, so they immediately noticed them. The people who came to welcome Yi Tianzong and Ling Xingyue were the Crown Prince and the 3rd Prince of Great Zhou, whom they had met twice before. When they saw Yi Tianzong and Ling Xingyue, they urged their horses to welcome them. Actually, there were 3 opinions in the Zhou dynasty regarding Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue's attitudes. The first was the Hao-Ranjin sect's representative in the Zhou dynasty. There were also people like the Crown Prince of Great Zhou who had witnessed Yi Tianzong's invincibility when he broke the seal, so they naturally welcomed him. The second was naturally the relationship between the various major powers. They strongly requested to use this opportunity to eliminate Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue and eliminate any unstable factors. The third was those who maintained a neutral opinion and did not want to get involved in this mess. The first and second camps were fiercely arguing in the imperial court. However, it was clear that the various major powers had already joined forces and firmly held the upper hand. However, the King of Great Zhou and the other core decision-makers were not stupid. They naturally understood that the representatives of the major powers who held the second position did not have good intentions. They wanted the Zhou dynasty and the Hao Ranjin sect to become enemies. Regarding this, the King of Great Zhou made an arbitrary decision. He directly ordered the Crown Prince and the third Prince of Great Zhou to welcome Yi Tianzong in order to prevent any unpredictable changes. The Crown Prince and the third Prince of Great Zhou approached Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue, then dismounted from their horses and walked up to them. They looked at Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue with complicated expressions. The Crown Prince and the third Prince of Great Zhou were already well aware of the great achievements of Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue in the past 2 years. Naturally, their attitude towards the two of them could not be as condescending as before. The two of them were still at the Marquis Wu realm, while Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue had already reached the King Wu realm and stirred up a storm in the world. They were originally the prodigies of the same generation, but they did not expect Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue to leave everyone far behind. The Crown Prince and the third Prince of Great Zhou put away their complicated expressions and finally said with a slightly respectful smile, "Brother Yi and his wife, we apologize for not going out to welcome you. Thinking back to more than 20 years ago, I still remember Brother Ye's invincible demeanor. After knowing that the two of you were coming, I have already prepared a residence for you and your wife in advance. During your stay in the Great Zhou Imperial City, my third brother and I will be in charge of hosting you two. Why don't you come with me and my third brother to take a look at your residence now?" Looking at the Crown Prince and the third Prince of Great Zhou, Yi Tianzong said indifferently, "Then it's better to accept respectfully than to decline courteously. It just so happens that Xinyue and I also want to rest for a while." Hearing this, the Crown Prince of Great Zhou smiled and said, "That's great. Brother Yi Tianzong, follow me." After saying that, he led Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue into the imperial city. Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue stayed in the Great Zhou Imperial City for half a month before leaving and embarking on the journey back to the Hao Ranjin sect. After Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue left, most of the people in power in the Great Zhou Imperial City heaved a sigh of relief, thinking that they had finally left. Otherwise, their days would be too difficult. After Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue followed the Crown Prince and the third Prince of Great Zhou to their residence, the Crown Prince of Great Zhou told Yi Tianzong about the attitude of the people in the imperial court towards the two of them. Although Yi Tianzong did not take those people from the opposing camp seriously, he did not reject the Crown Prince and the third Prince of Great Zhou's good intentions and expressed that he would not casually start a massacre. However, things often did not go as one wished. There would always be people who did not know what was good for them to jump out and cause trouble. In the first few days, it was fine. Not many people came to disturb Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue. Only the representative of the Hao Ranjin sect in the Zhou dynasty came to visit Yi Tianzong once. After chatting with Yi Tianzong for a while, he left. However, just as Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue walked out of the manor and strolled on the streets, trouble came knocking on their door. First, a playboy appeared and flirted with Ling Xinyue and was taught a lesson by Yi Tianzong. Then he was immediately taken care of by the Crown Prince of Great Zhou's accompanying guards. Then there was an arrogant and despotic young man who wanted to snatch Ling Xinyue. This time, Yi Tianzong could not tolerate it anymore. He directly crippled the person and even searched his soul to find out the mastermind behind the scenes. However, after Yi Tianzong crippled the young man, trouble appeared again. The commander in charge of patrolling the city coincidentally appeared and wanted to arrest Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue on the grounds of injuring people in public. One after another, trouble came knocking on their door. Yi Tianzong naturally would not allow himself to be arrested. He did not talk nonsense and directly crippled the person who wanted to arrest him. Then he brought Ling Xinyue back to the manor where they were temporarily staying. Along the way, all the people who wanted to stop them were all crippled. After returning to the manor, Yi Tianzong did not stay idle. Instead, he activated his huge primordial spirit and scanned the entire great Zhou dynasty's capital. After searching for half an hour, Yi Tianzong finally figured out the people who wanted to harm him. Just then, the crown prince of Great Zhou and the third prince of Great Zhou rushed back. When they found out that Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue were in trouble, the crown prince and the third prince of Great Zhou were in a terrible mood. They knew that there was definitely a problem. The various superpowers knew how powerful Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue were. When Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue were taking revenge, more than 10 superpowers did not believe it. They gathered more than 400 Wuzun and 2,000 Kingwu to ambush Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue. In the end, they were discovered by Yi Tianzong. After many battles, Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue killed all of them. Only less than 300 Wuzun and King Wu escaped. Yi Tianzong also took revenge on the more than 10 superpowers who ambushed them. The entire Mountain Gate encampment was blown into dozens of super craters. It was a tragic sight. Although the Zhou dynasty was powerful, it was difficult for them to gather more than 400 Wuzun. If Yi Tianzong fell out with the Zhou dynasty, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even if the best result was that the great Zhou dynasty paid a heavy price to kill Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue, they would still be besieged and destroyed by the other superpowers. Chapter 93. Thinking of the terrifying consequences, the crown prince and the third prince rushed towards Yi Tianzong's manor. After seeing Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue's calm expressions, the crown prince and the third prince relaxed slightly and heaved a sigh of relief. Just as they were about to speak, Yi Tianzong waved his hand and interrupted them. He said calmly, "I know that there is something wrong with today's matter. I have already investigated the great Zhou imperial city and found out all the masterminds behind this. I will not let them off." When Yi Tianzong said this, the crown prince and the third prince were stunned and their brains almost failed to react. "How long has it been? And you have already investigated the entire great Zhou imperial city. Are you trying to fool us? You haven't even walked through a single street and you want to investigate the entire great Zhou imperial city?" The third prince, who had a straightforward temper, opened his mouth to refute. However, before he could say anything, he saw Yi Tianzong's hands gesturing in front of him. It seemed to be a rather complicated gesture. Yi Tianzong's hands quickly formed a gesture. Then, a wave of pressure from the soul exploded with Yi Tianzong as the center. It quickly radiated across the entire great Zhou imperial city. This was Yi Tianzong mobilizing the immense power of his primordial spirit. Everyone in the great Zhou imperial city, except for the warriors of the martial lord realm and above who could maintain basic movement, felt as if their minds and souls were being suppressed by a heavy mountain. It was so heavy that they could not lift their spirits. Their bodies were also sore and powerless. Boundless panic engulfed the entire great Zhou imperial city. The crown prince and the third prince, who were facing Yi Tianzong, felt extremely uncomfortable. When the power of Yi Tianzong's primordial spirit exploded, the two of them sat on the ground. Their heads were dizzy and they felt as if they had been hit by a stick. Their eyes were dazed and they had difficulty breathing. They could not muster any strength at all. Yi Tianzong naturally knew about the state of the crown prince and the third prince and most of the people in the great Zhou imperial city. However, he did not care much. After all, He was not deliberately targeting them. It was just a natural pressure that was emitted when he mobilized the power of his primordial spirit on a large scale. As long as he withdrew the power of his primordial spirit, they would return to normal in a few days. At most, they would be slightly frightened. Yi Tianzong's immense power of his primordial spirit could not only be used for investigation, it could also be used to attack and destroy enemies on a spiritual level. At this time, he mobilized the immense power of his primordial spirit to destroy all the enemies in the great Zhou imperial city who had participated in the plot against him. At the same time, he also wanted to establish his power and let the people of the Zhou dynasty know his strength and not have any thoughts that they should not have. Under the control of Yi Tianzong, the immense power of his primordial spirit condensed into thousands of primordial spirit swords and then attacked the enemies that he had found. In just a moment, the enemies that Yi Tianzong had found died because of the attack of the primordial spirit swords. Regardless of whether they were warriors or ordinary people, none of them were spared. The primordial spirit was the symbol of an expert in the Wu Zun realm. When King Wu broke through to the Wu Zun realm, he needed to cultivate a martial Dao primordial spirit. The Wu Zun realm mainly cultivated and strengthened the martial Dao primordial spirit and began to sublimate the martial Dao concept into the martial Dao domain. The Wu Zun realm was the last realm before becoming diviner Wushang. It was also the last realm that one needed to prepare for transcendence. At the end of the Wu Zun realm, one needed to achieve a balance of the three essence, qi, and spirit of a warrior, and then manifest the three flowers at one's prominence. Essence referred to a warrior's physical body. A warrior started from the beginning of their cultivation by tempering their body. Every time they broke through a realm, their physical body would be strengthened correspondingly. Qi referred to the true essence in the body, and spirit referred to the warrior's spirit and primordial spirit. In the Wu Zun realm, if a warrior's essence, qi, and spirit were not balanced, there was no possibility of transcendence and becoming a diviner. Similarly, when a warrior entered the Wu Zun realm, his true essence would transform, and he would have a primordial spirit. Then the strength he could exert would far surpass that of King Wu realm. There was a huge difference between having a primordial spirit and not having one. When Wu Zun fought with King Wu, not to mention the true essence that surpassed that of King Wu, as long as Wu Zun used the power of his primordial spirit against King Wu, who did not have a primordial spirit, then King Wu's spirit would be damaged, and he would lose the ability to fight back. The reason why Wu Zun, who had fought with Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue, had been cut down like vegetables by the two and had almost no ability to fight back, was not that they were weak. On the contrary, if they were not talented and weak, then they were not qualified to enter the secret realms or grotto heavens of their respective forces to sleep. The reason why they were weak was because Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue were too strong. Yi Tianzong had unlocked some of the potential of the various geniuses. Even if Yi Tianzong was at the peak of King Wu realm, it would not be a problem for him to fight against Wushang, who was at the first heaven. Ling Xinyue, on the other hand, had spent 40 years in the immortal mansion. Not only had she leveled up, but she had also cultivated a martial way primordial spirit under Yi Tianzong's guidance. The current Ling Xinyue, whether it was her physical body, the quality and quantity of her true essence, her primordial spirit, or her martial arts domain, was at the level of a monster even among revered martial artists. She was essentially no different from a revered martial artist. In other words, when Ling Xinyue was at the King Wu realm, she already had all the characteristics of Wu Zun. She only needed to continue to break through and balance her essence, qi, and spirit. Among the enemies Yi Tianzong had found in the Zhou dynasty's imperial city, there were also some Wu Zun. These Wu Zun were the representatives of the various superpowers who were regularly sent to the Zhou dynasty to protect and intimidate. Even these Wu Zun could not resist Yi Tianzong's sword of primordial spirit. Yi Tianzong's primordial spirit, which was at the mythic realm, was far superior to Wu Zun's. It was like the difference between the world's hardest metal and mud. In the past, when Yi Tianzong had fought Wu Zun, he had only wanted to vent the feeling of battle and train Ling Xingyue. Otherwise, it would have been meaningless to suppress them all with a single primordial spirit attack. In just a short moment, Yi Tianzong had killed all the enemies and withdrawn his primordial spirit power. At the same time, the heavy pressure above the Zhou dynasty's imperial city disappeared without a trace. Only the powerless and panicked people were left gasping for breath as if they had just survived a disaster. After withdrawing his primordial spirit power, Yi Tianzong's face was a little pale. Mobilizing such a large amount of primordial spirit power in one attack was still a little difficult for the current Yi Tianzong. His body could not withstand it. This was the maximum amount of primordial spirit power that Yi Tianzong could mobilize at the moment. In just a moment, Yi Tianzong's body was damaged internally. On the surface, it looked fine, but in fact his internal organs were bleeding due to the strong pressure. His injuries were more serious. Yi Tianzong took 2 deep breaths, endured the injuries in his body, and calmed down. Then he said to the crown prince and 3rd prince of the great Zhou dynasty, who still had lingering fear in their hearts, "All right, now that I've killed those enemies who participated in the plot against me, they were basically the representatives of the other superpowers in the imperial city. I've also cleaned up those Wu Zun. In the future, there shouldn't be anyone with ulterior motives who has the guts to cause trouble. Take advantage of this opportunity to do what you want to do. That's your business. I won't keep you here today. You can go do your own things." After Yi Tianzong finished speaking, he left with Ling Xingyue slowly and walked towards the backyard, leaving the crown prince and 3rd prince of the great Zhou dynasty standing there in a daze, watching the two gradually disappear from their sight. After Yi Tianzong and Ling Xingyue were out of sight, the crown prince and 3rd prince of the great Zhou dynasty looked at each other. The shock, fear, and disbelief in each other's eyes were still clearly visible. The 3rd prince said in a trembling voice, "Brother, is what he said just now true?" The crown prince of the great Zhou dynasty closed his eyes and was silent for a moment. In the end, he said in a deep voice, "Let's go to the palace immediately. We'll go see father and tell him about this. If it's true, then—" The crown prince of the great Zhou dynasty didn't finish his sentence. However, the 3rd prince knew that if it was true, then Yi Tianzong's terror would be redefined. He could kill thousands of people in an instant. The Zhou dynasty couldn't afford to offend him. As for the other possibility of him fooling them, both of them didn't think about it. Whether it was the experience just now or Yi Tianzong's identity and strength, it determined that Yi Tianzong wasn't an idiot and wouldn't do such a degrading thing. Chapter 94. After the crown prince and the 3rd prince walked out of Yi Tianzong's manor, they headed straight for the palace. After passing through many palaces, the two of them finally met the best ruler of the Zhou dynasty, the king of Great Zhou. He could also be called the emperor of Great Zhou, but the title king of Great Zhou was more common. After the two of them met their father, they recounted everything that happened in Yi Tianzong's manor to the king of Great Zhou in detail. They did not even leave out Yi Tianzong's final state. After the king of Great Zhou heard what the two of them said, he solemnly sent out his subordinate's intelligence agency to investigate the situation in the Great Zhou imperial city. In less than 2 hours, the news came back. Just as Yi Tianzong had said, the representatives of the various superforces in the Great Zhou dynasty's king city, whether ordinary people or warriors, involved hundreds of thousands of people, had all died, but on the surface, they did not seem to have been attacked. According to the investigation of the royal family, Wu Zun, they should have been wiped out by an irresistible force on a spiritual level. In an extremely short period of time, they searched the entire Great Zhou imperial city and wiped out nearly 100,000 people on a spiritual level. From ordinary people to Wu Zun, no one was spared. Such terrifying power terrified everyone who knew the inside story. In the face of such power, what could guarantee one's safety? After the king of Great Zhou heard the news, he fell silent. No one could tell what he was thinking from his expressionless face. After a while, he said to the crown prince and the third prince, "From now on, the two of you will accompany them until they leave. Do you understand?" The crown prince and the third prince replied respectfully, "We understand. We will send people to guard the manor. If they want to go out to play, we will follow behind them. We will not let anyone who is blind cause trouble." The king of Great Zhou nodded and waved his hand to signal them to leave. After the two of them left, the king of Great Zhou leaned back in his chair and sighed helplessly. On the other side, after the crown prince and the third prince of Great Zhou left Yi Tianzong's manor, Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinhua entered the room and immediately entered the immortal mansion to treat their injuries. Looking at Ling Xinhua's worried and heartbroken expression, Yi Tianzong smiled and said, "It's okay. It's not that serious. I'll be fine soon." After that, Yi Tianzong began to heal himself. Fortunately, although the injury was serious, it was not difficult for Yi Tianzong. He just needed to take some medicinal pills and spend some time to recuperate. In the superior environment of the immortal mansion, the injury recovered faster. Time passed quickly, and it was the second day. Yi Tianzong had stayed in the immortal mansion for almost 3 days. His injuries had recovered, and there was no problem. After exiting the vast expanse immortal abode and walking out of the room, Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinhua continued to tour the Great Zhou imperial city with normal expressions. For 10 days in a row, Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinhua leisurely experienced the prosperity and local customs of the Great Zhou dynasty's royal city. In these 10 days, because of the series of actions of the Great Zhou royal city, the powerful clans and forces in the Great Zhou royal city gradually found out the cause and effect of the incident 10 days ago. Apart from being afraid of Yi Tianzong, they strictly restrained the hedonistic sons of their clans and forces. Some of them were even grounded from going out, afraid that they would bump into Yi Tianzong. If something like before happened again, they would be finished and no one would stand up for them. Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinhua stayed for a total of half a month before they left under the solicitous farewells of the crown prince and the third prince of Great Zhou. After confirming that Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinhua had really left, all the people in power in the Great Zhou royal city heaved a long sigh of relief. This malefic star was finally gone. They had really had enough of living in fear. Please don't come back in the future. After leaving the Great Zhou royal city, Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinhua embarked on the journey back to the Hao Ranjin sect. It had been 2 years since they left the sect. He didn't know how the Hao Ranjin sect was developing. Outside, he and Ling Xinhua had taken revenge on the various superforces, causing them to suffer heavy losses. They couldn't even take care of themselves. Now that the Hao Ranjin sect was free of all kinds of obstacles, they should have improved a lot. Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinhua didn't delay much along the way. It took them nearly a month to return to the Hao Ranjin sect's territory. They didn't enter any of the cities along the way. Instead, they headed straight for Tiangang Peak. When they returned to Tiangang Peak, they happened to bump into everyone in the Haoran Great Hall, summarizing the results of the past 2 years. After Yi Tianzong returned, he entered the Haoran Great Hall and was warmly welcomed by everyone. During the 2 years that Yi Tianzong was away, Tiangang Pavilion had sent back news of what he had done. They were very happy that Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinhua had taught their enemies a lesson. Because of Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinhua's actions, the Hao Ranjin sect didn't have any external interference in the past 2 years. They focused on recovering and developing their strength. In the past 2 years, the Hao Ranjin sect had gained more than 2,000 new disciples. Marquis Wu, more than 100 new disciples. King Wu, Wu Zong, and Wu Ling. The number of new disciples, especially Marquis Wu and King Wu, had to suppress their breakthroughs because of the 10 years of fighting. However, they had also accumulated a lot of foundation. Now that the environment was stable, they all made breakthroughs one after another. It wasn't easy to make breakthroughs in the martial arts realms, especially after Wu Zongjing. Every breakthrough in the major realms was accompanied by a great risk of failure. If the breakthrough didn't go well, it would damage the foundation and make it impossible to progress further. If the breakthrough didn't go well, it would cause a drop in the realms and even cause the cultivator to lose their cultivation. If it was more serious, it would lead to Qigong deviation and death on the spot. The reason why the Hao Ranjin sect had so many new disciples, Marquis Wu and King Wu, was because they had participated in breaking the seal of heaven and earth. They were favored by the will of heaven and earth, which reduced the risk of breaking through. Under normal circumstances, half of the disciples at the peak of Wu Zong could successfully break through to Marquis Wu. It would be good if 2 out of 10 disciples at the peak of Marquis Wu could break through to King Wu. In addition to the people who had broken through to the next realm, the Hao Ranjin sect had also recruited disciples on a large scale in the past 2 years to make up for the number of people who had lost in the 10 years of war. In 2 years, they had recruited a total of 300,000 disciples. After hearing the results of the development in the past 2 years, Yi Haoran said, "After 2 years of consolidation, our strength is stronger than before. It's time to get rid of the 3 unstable factors, the Demon Sword sect, the Shura sect, and the Jinbu Gate. Does anyone have any objections to this?" Objections? Of course, no one had any objections. Which one of these 3 didn't have a deep grudge against the Hao Ranjin sect? The Demon Sword sect was their archenemy in the past, when they were fighting against the alliance of the 7 major forces. These 3 sects actually took advantage of the situation. They had tolerated them for a long time and had wanted to get rid of them for a long time. Now that Yi Haoran, as the leader, had spoken, everyone was naturally more enthusiastic. Although it had been nearly 30 years since the last war between the righteous and the devil, the Demon Sword sect, the Shura sect, and the Jinbu Gate had recovered their former strength and were even stronger than before. However, with the current strength of the Hao Ranjin sect, it wasn't difficult to destroy them. Even if the 3 sects had Wu Zun as their trump card, it wouldn't have any effect on the Hao Ranjin sect. Yi Tianzong's family and their own sects Wu Zun could definitely suppress them without any pressure. The only troublesome thing was how to deal with the secret realms of the 3 sections. How to find the location of the secret realms of the 3 sects and how to deal with it after finding it. For this problem, Yi Tianzong directly took over. First, he would sneak in and capture the sect leaders of the 3 sections. Then he would search their souls and use the method obtained from the soul search to open the secret realms. After entering the secret realms, there would be plenty of ways to deal with those who were in hibernation. As for how to attack the 3 sects, it was even simpler. First, Yi Tianzong would sneak in and capture the sect leaders of the 3 sects and search their souls. After obtaining the method to open the secret realms, the Hao Ranjin sect's Marquis Wu, Wu King, and Wu Zun would directly fly in from the sky and attack the headquarters of the 3 sections. They would kill all the people above the Wu Ling realm in the 3 sections. Then, the main forces of the Hao Ranjin sect would completely occupy the entire territory of the 3 sections. After determining the method and time of the attack, the Hao Ranjin sect began to fully prepare for the battle. Yi Tianzong went ahead to complete his task. Before the 3 sects received any news, he would first obtain the location of the secret realms of the 3 sects and the method to open them. He would handle the difficult matters himself and leave everything else to the people of the Hao Ranjin sect. He couldn't do everything himself. Chapter 95. In the next half a month, the Hao Ranjin sect divided its forces into 3 parts, preparing to attack the Demon Sword sect, the Shura Gate, and the Jinbu Gate. During this half a month, Yi Tianzong first led the Hao Ranjin sect's Marquis Wu realm experts, and above to break into the Demon Sword sect from the sky. Before attacking the Demon Sword sect, Yi Tianzong first sneaked into the Demon Sword sect under the cover of night and captured the current sect master of the Demon Sword sect. Then he searched his soul and learned the location of the Demon Sword sect's secret territory and how to open it. After getting the information he needed, Yi Tianzong returned to the place where the experts of the Hao Ranjin sect gathered. After learning that Yi Tianzong had achieved his goal, nearly 3,000 Marquis Wu realm experts of the Hao Ranjin sect, more than 300 King Wu realm experts, and more than 30 Wu Zun realm experts began to move, heading towards the Demon Sword Peak without hiding their auras. Their movements were detected by the people of the Demon Sword sect, but the experts of the Hao Ranjin sect didn't care about this. Because they were accompanied by experts like Wu Zun, they could use the power of their spirit to investigate the situation within a certain range. The experts of the Hao Ranjin sect flew in the air under the leadership of Wu Zun. Looking at the dense palaces and houses on the Demon Sword Peak below, they didn't wait for the people of the Demon Sword sect to find them and directly threw 5 exploding flame pearls. These exploding flame pearls were really useful and had great lethality. The people of the Hao Ranjin sect liked them very much, but Yi Tianzong controlled them strictly and only took them out when facing the enemy. The people on the Demon Sword Peak were caught off guard by the 5 exploding flame pearls. Because of the explosion and the rolling rocks and other reasons, more than 100,000 people died directly. After the explosion, the experts of the Hao Ranjin sect directly landed on the Demon Sword Peak and started a massacre. Because of the explosion of the exploding flame pearls, many Marquis Wu and King Wu realm experts of the Demon Sword sect were killed. Wu Zun, who was originally in charge, was also killed by Yi Tianzong, who didn't want any accidents. The experts of the Hao Ranjin sect experts killed all night and didn't stop until dawn. At this time, the Demon Sword Peak was full of corpses, and there were no people of the Demon Sword sect in sight. In just one night, nearly 200,000 people from the Demon Sword sect were killed, almost half of the total number of people in the Demon Sword sect. As for the rest of the people who escaped in the night, they would be dealt with by the disciples of the Hao Oran realm. While the others were resting, Yi Tianzong came to the secret territory of the Demon Sword sect. He took out a dark green ancient mirror, and then transferred the Zhenyuan in his body into the ancient mirror according to a special method. After the ancient mirror absorbed the Zhenyuan input by Yi Tianzong, it slowly floated in the air 5 feet above the ground. Then a burst of spatial ripples spread out with the ancient mirror as the center, and then a spatial passage with a diameter of 10 feet appeared. Putting away the ancient mirror, Yi Tianzong stepped into the spatial passage. After passing through the spatial passage, Yi Tianzong came to a space with a diameter of about 10 miles. There were only a dozen flashing lights in the space. The light was dim, but it didn't affect Yi Tianzong's vision. It was about the same size as the secret territory of the Hao Ranjin sect. Yi Tianzong observed the entire secret territory of the Demon Sword sect, but he didn't study it carefully. Instead, he looked at the hundreds of ice coffins in the secret territory. Some of them had been opened, but there was no one inside. There was also a small half of more than 100 sealed ice coffins. Yi Tianzong was not careless. He was on guard and killed the people sleeping in the ice coffins one by one. After killing everyone, he finally walked out of the secret territory. After resting for 4 hours, Yi Tianzong and the experts of the Hao Ranjin sect once again set off for the Jinbu Gate. The process was similar. Yi Tianzong sneaked into the Jinbu Gate at night and captured the master of the Jinbu Gate. He searched his soul and found out the location of the secret territory of the Jinbu Gate and the method to open it. After Yi Tianzong succeeded, the other people of the Hao Ranjin sect threw exploding flame pearls at the true Martial Peak. After that, they wantonly slaughtered the people of the Jinbu Gate. After another night of slaughter, about 200,000 people of the Jinbu Gate were killed or injured. The remaining 200,000 people either escaped or left the true Martial Peak. In short, the experts of the Hao Ranjin sect had basically dealt with all the forces above the Wuling realm. The remaining ones were left to the disciples of the Haoran sect to deal with. Yi Tianzong once again entered the secret territory of the Jinbu Gate through the method of searching his soul. After killing all the people sleeping in the secret territory of the Jinbu Gate, he rested for a while. Then he once again led the experts of the Haoranjin sect towards the Shura Gate. Under the same process, the Shura Gate also lost about half of its people under the attack of Yi Tianzong and the others. Its high-level combat power was almost completely wiped out. The secret territory was also completely destroyed by Yi Tianzong. After Yi Tianzong and the others completed their mission and returned to the Haoranjin sect, Yi Haoran ordered all the disciples of the Haoran sect to be divided into 3 groups. Each group had about 500,000 people, and they headed towards the Demon Sword sect, Jinbu Gate and Shura Gate, respectively. The 3 groups advanced towards their targets in a grandiose manner. In the next few months, they launched an all-out attack on the Demon Sword sect, Shura Gate, and Jinbu Gate. They also hunted down the remaining members of the 3 sections. As time passed, the Haoranjin sect's all-out attack on the 3 sects undoubtedly attracted the attention of the other superforces. This was especially true for the 7 superforces that had once attacked the Haoranjin sect. In the face of the Haoranjin sect's actions, they had no choice but to quickly withdraw their sphere of influence. They were afraid that they would come into conflict with the people of the Haoranjin sect, which would lead to retaliation. The Haoranjin sect didn't care about how the other superforces would react. After all, after the revenge of Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue, there shouldn't be any superforces that would dare to provoke the Haoranjin sect for at least the next 10 years. Since that was the case, there was nothing to worry about. The 3 sects were at the bottom of the superforces. If they wanted to fight, so be it. Who would dare to fight for justice? More than 3 months later, the Haoranjin sect completely occupied the territories under the jurisdiction of the Demon Sword sect, Shura Gate, and Jinbu Gate. The surviving disciples of the 3 sects were also hunted down by the disciples of Haoran. Almost all of them died. Only a few people were lucky enough to escape the influence of the 3 sects and the Haoranjin sect. Some of them entered the dense forests and mountains, and their whereabouts were unknown. At this point, the Haoranjin sect had completely solved the problem in its heart. There were no more worries. The 3 super sects that had been hostile to the Haoranjin sect for thousands of years also disappeared. The actual area under the jurisdiction of the Haoranjin sect had expanded to a radius of 30,000 miles, and its sphere of influence radiated to a radius of 50,000 miles. After completely destroying the Demon Sword sect, Jinbu Gate, and Shura Gate, the Haoranjin sect once again returned to its usual state. It quietly integrated and governed the lives of the people within its territory, promoted the Haoran Sutra, and focused on developing the strength of the sect. It was accumulating strength for the next time it broke the seal of heaven and earth. Chapter 96. While Haoranjin sect was quietly developing, Yi Tianzong came up with a new plan. However, this plan was aimed at those outstanding disciples. It was to train the Haoranjin sect's future top fighting force. To be honest, Yi Tianzong had already thought of this plan a long time ago. It was just that he had only just implemented it. Yi Tianzong estimated the development of the Haoranjin sect. It would take at least 7 or 8 years before the next time the seal of heaven and earth was broken. During this period of time, Yi Tianzong planned to select some of the most outstanding disciples. He would invest a large amount of resources to train these disciples to have a special body constitution, and he would personally teach them. Moreover, Yi Tianzong had specially used the divine martial heavenly technique as a reference to create the Haoran Immortal Sutra. The Haoran Immortal Sutra was much more advanced than the Haoran True Heavenly Dipper Chant. It was more suitable for outstanding disciples to cultivate. Yi Tianzong's goal was to train these outstanding disciples to become the leaders of the Haoranjin sect. Yi Tianzong first discussed this plan with his family. In the end, they agreed that in the next 9 years, a batch of outstanding disciples would be selected every 3 years. Each batch would have 100 people, so there would be a total of 300 people. A large amount of resources would be spent to train these disciples to have a special body constitution of the low spiritual level. He hoped that these disciples would become the backbone of the Hao Ranjin sect in the future. According to Yi Tianzong's estimation, at least 1/10 of the Hao Ranjin sect's resources would be used to train these 300 people to have a special body constitution of the low spiritual level. Some of the extremely precious spiritual herbs would also have to be picked by Yi Tianzong from the herb garden in the Immortal Mansion. The herb garden in the Immortal Mansion was a spirit garden that Yi Tianzong had opened when he first crossed over to this world. It was a spirit garden dedicated to growing various spirit herbs and heaven and earth treasures. After the discussion, Yi Tianzong and Yi Haoren gathered the higher-ups of Hao Ranjin sect and announced the plan. The first selection of 100 people would be held in 2 years. At the same time, he also informed the higher-ups of Hao Ranjin sect about the differences between ordinary warriors and warriors with special constitutions, as well as the beneficial effects of special constitutions on future martial arts. After hearing the secret news that they had never heard before, and thinking about the plan that Yi Tianzong and Yi Haoren had told them, all the higher-ups of Hao Ranjin sect became excited. They were already so old and hopeless, but their descendants had a chance. They still had 2 years to prepare. If they missed this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, they would regret it for the rest of their lives. While the higher-ups of Hao Ranjin sect were excited, Yi Haoren mentioned some of the requirements for the selection. The 2 most important requirements were loyalty to the sect and a certain level of understanding of the Haoren scripture. As for the requirements of character and temperament, as long as one's understanding of the Haoren scripture met the requirements, then one's character and temperament would naturally not be bad. Otherwise, if one's heart and temperament were not good enough, one would not be able to understand Yi Tianzong's Haoren scripture in depth. After Yi Haoren finished talking about the requirements for the selection, Yi Tianzong continued to say, "At present, this news is only known to you. After half a year, it will be announced to the whole sect. As for what to do during this time, it's your business. I'll say the ugly words first. No one is allowed to make any trouble at the final result of the selection in 2 years. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. If there's nothing else, you can go and prepare yourselves." Yi Haoren said with a smile as he watched the senior members of Haoren's sect hurrying out. "Ha, Tianzong, your plan has really caught their attention. They will be very busy for those quotas. The sect will be very lively in the following days." Yi Haoren said with a smile. Yi Tianzong said casually, "No matter how they compete, as long as they don't violate the rules set by us, it's fine. Otherwise, we will not spare them. What we need is not a foul sect. People's hearts are fickle. As the sect becomes stronger, there are already some bad signs. We can take this opportunity to get rid of those who have lost their minds and make room for the young disciples." Hearing Yi Tianzong's words, Yi Haoren thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. Half a year later, Yi Haoren announced the plan to select and nurture outstanding disciples in the sect, as well as the requirements for the selection. He also announced the information related to some special constitutions. The first batch of 100 people would be selected in the Dragon Phoenix list tournament 1.5 years later. Only inner sect disciples under the age of 30 and above had the right to compete for the spots. As soon as the news came out, the whole sect was in an uproar. A year and a half later, the Dragon Phoenix list competition would be held. All the disciples of Haoren who wanted to participate in the competition would use all their skills, fighting with their wits and courage, trying their best to defeat their opponents. In the end, the fierce Dragon Phoenix list competition came to an end, and the selection of the 100 outstanding disciples was completed. During this period, as Yi Tianzong and Yi Haoren had expected, many higher-ups of Hao Ranjin sect wanted to obtain the quotas through under-the-table manipulation and other despicable means. Yi Haoren, who had been prepared for this, naturally would not condone it. All the people involved, no matter who they were arrested on the spot and punished in public with conclusive evidence. Once again, the dignity of the sect's rules could not be violated. Under such means, many disciples of Howran were greatly encouraged and strengthened the cohesion of Howranjin's sect again. Time passed quickly. Since the first selection of 100 outstanding disciples, 8 years had passed in the blink of an eye. Howranjin's sect once again selected 200 outstanding disciples for training. During these 8 years, Yi Tianzong had used nearly 1/5 of Howranjin's sect's spiritual herb storage, as well as some extremely precious heavenly and earthly treasures picked from the immortal mansion. He had also spent a lot of time and energy to create a creation spirit pool that could be used to assist in the cultivation of special constitutions. At the same time, he had also refined a large number of elixirs and body-tempering liquid. With the help of a special secret method, the creation spirit pool and various elixirs and spirit liquids, 300 of Howranjin's sect's most outstanding disciples had all cultivated special constitutions. Apart from 7 particularly outstanding disciples who had cultivated a medium spirit level special physique, the others were all at the low spirit level special physique due to lack of time or aptitude. However, there were also many disciples who had reached the peak of the low spirit level special physique. They only needed time or an opportunity to be promoted to the medium spirit level special physique. In these 8 years, under Yi Tianzong's meticulous guidance, the youngest of these 300 outstanding disciples had already reached the peak of Wuzong realm. They had also cultivated the Howran Immortal Sutra, and their strength had increased by almost 10 times compared to the same level as before. Excluding these 300 disciples, in these 8 years, Howranjin's sect had fully developed. Excluding the Howran courtyard, the total number of disciples had reached 8 million. Among them, the number of Marquis Wu realm disciples had reached 3,700. The number of Wu King realm disciples had reached 430, and the number of Wu Zongjing realm disciples had exceeded 80,000. Estimating that Howranjin's sect strength had almost accumulated enough, Yi Tianzong had an idea. He planned to break the seal of heaven and earth for the 3rd time. After breaking the seal of heaven and earth this time, the upper limit of martial arts that the profound spirit world could withstand would be raised to the Wuzun realm. At the same time, this would also be the last safe attempt to break the seal of heaven and earth. According to Yi Tianzong's calculations, he felt that the next time the seal of Wu Sheng realm was broken, there would be an unforeseen event that would greatly increase the risk. However, he did not know what exactly would happen. Regarding this, Yi Tianzong could only take one step at a time. Before the next seal of heaven and earth was broken, he would do his best to increase the strength of Howranjin's sect. Chapter 97. Before breaking the seal of heaven and earth, Yi Howran and the others awakened the remaining 22 Wu Zun from the Yi family in the secret territory. The other Wu Zun from the opposing factions were all killed. They gave the Wu Zun a month's time to familiarize themselves with the current situation in the Howranjin sect. They were also informed of the reason for awakening them. After these Wu Zun were completely familiar with the Howranjin sect, they began to break the seal of heaven and earth for the 3rd time. With the previous 2 experiences, the process of breaking the seal of heaven and earth for the 3rd time was much smoother. The Howranjin sect gathered all the members of the sect, totaling more than 8 million people. With Yi Tianzong as the leader, they activated the Howran's righteous energy between heaven and earth and broke the seal of heaven and earth for the 3rd time. After breaking the seal of heaven and earth for the 3rd time, the profound spirit world expanded by 10 times. The sky was higher and the ground was wider. The space was more compact and firm. The density of the qi of heaven and earth doubled again. The quality of the qi of heaven and earth also increased. As time passed, the profound spirit world continued to absorb the energy from outside the heaven and earth. The density and quality of the qi of heaven and earth continued to increase. The expansion of the heaven and earth continued for about 2 hours before it gradually calmed down. Everyone in the Hao Ranzhen sect looked up at the sky in anticipation. It was time to reap the rewards again. They did not have to wait for too long. After a quarter of an hour, a dark green river poured down from the sky. The dark green river split into 2 tributaries, one large and one small. The small tributary split into countless water balls of different sizes and fell within a 30,000-mile radius of the Hao Ranzhen sect. The other large, dark, green tributary split into more than one. 8 million streams of water of different thicknesses and directly poured into the bodies of everyone in the Hao Ranzhen sect. Compared to the last time they broke the seal of heaven and earth, the rewards this time were much greater. It was equivalent to more than 10 times the previous time. The energy of the heaven and earth's feedback originated from the source of the heaven and earth. Just the purity of the energy far surpassed the true essence that the martial artists cultivated. After absorbing this energy, not only could one break through the martial arts realm without any side effects, it could also subtly strengthen the martial artist's foundation and potential. Moreover, receiving the pure energy of the heaven and earth also meant that one was favored by the heaven and earth. For a certain period of time, whether it was cultivation or doing other things, it would be much easier. After absorbing the energy of the heaven and earth's feedback, almost everyone in the Hao Ranzhen sect had broken through the martial arts realm. Everyone had broken through at least 3 small realms. Many of the Haoran disciples had broken through the barrier of a big realm and entered the next one. The rest had basically broken through to the peak of their current big realm. They only needed to stabilize and buffer for a period of time before they could continue to break through to the next big realm. After the heaven and earth's feedback, the Hao Ranzhen sect had newly promoted 50 experts of Wu Zun, more than 1,000 experts of Wu King, more than 10,000 experts of Marquis Wu, and more than 150,000 experts of Wu Zong. At this time, the Hao Ranzhen sect no longer had any disciples below the martial warrior realm. The 50 or so experts of Wu Zun who had been awakened from the secret realm had all used the pure energy of the heaven and earth's feedback to replenish their lost foundation and foundation. They could continue to pursue higher martial arts realms. As for Ling Xinyue, Yi Haoran, and other members of Yi Tianzong's family, as well as the 300 outstanding disciples that Yi Tianzong had specially selected and cultivated, after absorbing the energy of the heaven and earth's feedback, their martial arts cultivation did not break through. Instead, they used all of it to improve their own physical attributes. Although Ling Xinyue's clear ice Xian body did not break through to the next level, under the nourishment of the heaven and earth's feedback, her foundation had greatly increased. Her physical attributes at the peak of the profound level had reached the end. She was only one step away from being promoted to the divine level. The divine level physique had great potential to break through to the myth realm. It was the best physique besides the king level physique at the peak of the profound spirit world. Ling Xinyue's peak profound level physique was enough for her to be unimpeded before she reached the myth realm. Yi Yuanshan, Yi Haoran, and Yi Haoyun's true Wuling body, which had gradually increased to the peak of the spirit level, had been promoted to the true martial Xian body of the profound level. Li Qingya, Li Qingshi, Su Mingxin, and Zi Yunshuan's clear immortal spirit body had also been promoted to the profound immortal Xian body of the profound level. The 300 disciples with special physiques had all been promoted by one level. 7 of them were high spirit level, and 293 of them were mid-spirit level. As for Yi Tianzong himself, he had directly broken through to the peak of the late Wu Zun realm. He was only one step away from breaking through to the peak of the Wu Zun realm. While the people of Hao Ranzhen sect were happily improving their martial arts realms, the other superpowers in the Central Plains were all looking at the expanded world with complicated feelings. Needless to say, the various superpowers knew the reason for the sudden expansion of the heaven and earth. It was definitely because the Hao Ranzhen sect had broken the heaven and earth seal again. At this point, the various superpowers no longer hoped that they could break the heaven and earth seal and increase their strength greatly. This was because, although they knew the method to break the heaven and earth seal, they really didn't know how to use the energy between the heaven and earth. As for the possibility of the Hao Ranzhen sect deceiving them, it wasn't that it wasn't possible, but it was too small. Every time the heaven and earth seal was broken, the Hao Ranzhen sect didn't prohibit them from inquiring about it. As long as they didn't cause any trouble, it was fine. Therefore, deceiving them wasn't very likely. Even though he did not have any hopes of breaking through the seal of the heaven and earth, looking at the righteous sect breaking through time after time and increasing their strength time after time, Lin Fan could not help but feel envious and jealous. Lin Fan did not know how much the strength of the righteous sect would grow after this. Because the heaven and earth seal had expanded by 10 times, the territories ruled by the various superpowers had also expanded by 10 times. For a long time to come, all the superpowers' main focus was on making the best use of their time to increase their strength, as well as how to build and govern the expanded territories. For the time being, they didn't have the time to scheme against each other. Among all these superpowers, the Zhou dynasty was undoubtedly under the most pressure. Originally, as the only dynasty in the Central Plains, it was also the strongest superpower. The territory it ruled was the largest. Before the Hao Ranzhen sect broke the heaven and earth seal, the territory it ruled had a radius of 200,000 miles. Now that the heaven and earth seal had suddenly expanded by 10 times, it was a situation that was both happy and worried for the Zhou dynasty. They were happy because the territory they ruled had expanded by 10 times. They were worried because with such a large territory, it was too difficult to manage it in a short period of time. When the time came, they would inevitably have to fight with those superpowers again. Just as the Central Plains, the western regions, the northern borderline, and the southern wastelands all quieted down to increase their strength and digest the effects of the expansion of the heaven and earth seal, because the heaven and earth seal was broken again, some creatures other than humans that Yi Tianzong had previously imagined also experienced unknown changes. In the desolate wilderness, dangerous lands, or the depths of endless forests, there were endless roars that rose and fell continuously, as if announcing the awakening of some existences. In the vast and boundless ocean, countless marine creatures suddenly grew in size and gained intelligence. All kinds of changes occurred, and an unprecedented change was brewing in the ocean. Chapter 98. In the blink of an eye, 5 years had passed. The Hao Ranzhen sect's strength had increased by at least twofold compared to when it had first broken through the seal of heaven and earth 5 years ago. Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue's martial cultivation had both risen to the peak of Wuzun. As for Yi Haoren and the others, with the help of Yi Tianzong, their physiques had once again risen by 1 level, reaching the medium mystic grade physique. Their martial cultivation had also broken through to the intermediate Wuzun realm. In addition, there were more than 20 new Wuzun experts and hundreds of King Wu experts. Now, some things had to be put on the agenda. The first was the 7 superpowers surrounding the Hao Ranzhen sect. It was time to get rid of them. After breaking through the seal of heaven and earth 5 years ago, the world had expanded tenfold. The Hao Ranzhen sect's territory had also expanded to a radius of 100,000 miles. The problem that the Hao Ranzhen sect was facing now was that its territory was vast, but its population was sparse. It was not conducive to its control of a vast territory. As a sect, it was already very, very vast for its territory to reach a radius of 100,000 miles. It would not be able to control any more than that. Therefore, getting rid of the 7 superpowers surrounding it was not to continue expanding its territory, but to take revenge. At the same time, how could it allow others to sleep soundly on its side bed? If the 2 superpowers were equal in strength, the Hao Ranzhen sect could only tolerate them. However, The 7 superpowers surrounding it were far inferior to the Hao Ranjin sect's strength. Since that was the case, in order to avoid any unstable factors, the Hao Ranjin sect would not allow these 7 superpowers to continue existing. After eliminating these 7 superpowers, although the Hao Ranjin sect would not directly occupy them, they would also not work for others. After some discussion, the higher-ups of Hao Ranjin sect decided on a plan. The Hao Ranjin sect had decided to set up a Haoran branch courtyard within a radius of 50,000 kilometers of its territory, including the area that would be vacated after the annihilation of the 7 superpowers and even further. Each Haoran branch courtyard would be converted into a Haoran branch courtyard. These Haoran branch academies would be spread all over the areas outside the Hao Ranjin sect's direct rule. On one hand, it would expand the Hao Ranjin sect's influence and spread the Hao Ranjin sect's Haoran orthodoxy. On the other hand, it would allow them to continuously recruit outstanding disciples for the Hao Ranjin sect from a wider area. Secondly, aside from dealing with the 7 superpowers, the Hao Ranjin sect's development of the Haoran mountain range was also one of the most important things to do right now. The Hao Ranjin sect's headquarters, Tiangang Peak, was located on the outskirts of the Haoran mountain range. After the expansion of the heavens and earth, the Haoran mountain range had also expanded to a radius of 20,000 kilometers. The Haoran mountain range was rich in natural resources. Most of the Hao Ranjin sect's spiritual herbs, spiritual medicines, and various spiritual materials were obtained from the Haoran mountain range every year. However, in the past, the Hao Ranjin sect did not pay much attention to the use of the Haoran mountain range. They only issued missions and sent disciples to the mountain range to collect resources needed for martial arts cultivation. Even 1/3 of the potential of the Haoran mountain range had not been unearthed. Now that the Haoran mountain range had expanded to a radius of 20,000 kilometers, the Hao Ranjin sect naturally could not let this precious land go to waste. Not to mention other things, just the countless peaks alone could be used to accommodate the disciples of the Hao Ranjin sect. Tiangang Peak was the highest peak in the Haoran mountain range. After the expansion of the heavens and earth 3 times, it was now more than 60,000 feet tall. It was so majestic and vast that one could not look up at it. Naturally, it could easily accommodate more than 8 million people. However, as the Hao Ranjin sect continued to recruit disciples in the future, it would undoubtedly be inconvenient for everyone to gather on one peak. Moreover, if everyone gathered on Tiangang Peak, the amount of heaven and earth yuan qi consumed every day for cultivation was immeasurable. In this way, if there were too many people, the average cultivation speed would decrease. If the disciples were split up and found a few more suitable peaks to live in and set up a spirit gathering formation, then the cultivation environment of the Haoran mountain range disciples would undoubtedly be better than on Tiangang Peak. Secondly, the most important thing was that Yi Tianzong had vaguely mentioned that it had been millions of years since the mythological era. In such a long period of time, no one knew how many forces had been passed down and hidden in various places between the heavens and earth. Now that the Haoran mountain range has expanded to a radius of 20,000 kilometers, could there be forces hidden in the mountain range that we have not discovered? Also, since humans can cultivate, then in the history of the profound spirit world, there must be other non-human creatures that can cultivate. Then, with the recovery of the heavens and earth, will those non-human creatures also appear? Where are they hiding? The most likely place is the mountains or the depths of the forest where people rarely go. The name of the Haoran mountain range was given after the Haoran sword sect appeared. Then, before the Haoran sword sect was established, what secrets were hidden? If they did not thoroughly investigate the Haoran mountain range now and firmly control it in their hands, who knows what unforeseen events might occur in the future? Yi Tianzong's words could be said to have directly made all the higher-ups of the Hao Ranjin sect aware of the seriousness of the matter. They were only thinking of sweeping away the enemies outside, but forgot the principle of darkness under the lamp. Since there could be various forces hidden in any place, then the various mountains and forests of the Central Plains were the most likely places to hide. The higher-ups of the Haurangian sect were very sure that there were definitely many forces hidden in those mountains and forests. It was very likely that there was more than one hidden force in the Hauran mountain range. It was just that they had not appeared before, and the Haurangian sect did not think of it and did not discover it. Also, there was the matter of whether other hidden forces would suddenly appear within 100,000 li of the Haurangian sect's territory. After all, the 7 superforces outside the Haurangian sect had suddenly appeared. In the past, at most, there were only a few second-rate and third-rate forces. No one stipulated that every hidden force had to have a significant inheritance in the world. Perhaps the hidden forces did not care about this, and only a few people existed in the world and were not known to outsiders. Thinking of the possible situation, the higher-ups of the Haurangian sect felt a heavy heart. Fortunately, this problem had been discovered now. Otherwise, if they continued to ignore it, who knew when an uncontrollable force would suddenly appear in their territory? At that time, the Haurangian sect would be in a difficult situation. It seemed like they had to strengthen the control of the patrol of the territory under their rule. They could not afford to have any trouble. After discussing these 2 important matters, they also formulated a development plan for the Haurangian sect for the next 10 years. The higher-ups of the Haurangian sect cooperated with each other and began to mobilize the strength of the sect. Their first goal was to eliminate the 7 superforces in the surrounding area and establish the Hauran Branch Academy. The higher-ups of the Haurangian sect also began to move. Even the Wusheng first heaven ancestor of the Yi family, who was sleeping in the secret realm, was awakened. After familiarizing himself with the current situation of the Haurangian sect, he also participated in the operation against the 7 superforces. Chapter 99. The 7 superpowers surrounding the Haurangian sect had once joined forces to attack the Haurangian sect. In the final battle, they had lost more than 90% of their strength. Later, they were retaliated against by Yi Tianzong. Even though more than 10 years had passed, they had only recovered 30% of their strength. To deal with these 7 superpowers, the disciples of the Haurangian sect and the disciples of the Hauran Branch School, totaling more than 8 million people, were divided into 7 forces and launched an attack on the 7 superpowers at the same time. Of course, such a large-scale movement of the entire sect was not done overnight. The distance between the 2 sides was quite far. In order to prevent the 7 superpowers from discovering and escaping, the Haurangian sect publicly announced a large-scale city construction plan. Using the reason that a large number of people were needed to build a new city, they mobilized millions of people and spent 3 months gradually mobilizing their forces around the 7 superpowers. After the mobilization was completed, Yi Tianzong and the experts of the Haurangian sect at the Wu King realm and above took the lead in launching a surprise attack. Just like how they dealt with the Demon Sword sect, Shura Gate, and Jinbu Gate, they first moved quickly and captured the leaders of the 7 superpowers. Then Yi Tianzong searched their souls and obtained the locations of the 7 superpowers' secret realms or heavenly abodes, as well as the method to open them. After Yi Tianzong succeeded, the Wu King and Wu Zun realm experts of the Haurangian sect began to massacre the 7 superpowers, especially the high-level experts of the 7 superpowers. At the same time, the 7 forces that the Haurangian sect had gathered earlier began to attack the 7 superpowers' territories according to the agreed time, purging all the cultivators belonging to the 7 superpowers. Each of these 7 superpowers ruled over a vast area of more than 50,000 li. Therefore, the Haurangian sect's purge of these 7 superpowers lasted for more than a year before it gradually subsided. Under the purge of Hauran's disciples, only a small number of people with low strength were lucky enough to survive and escape. At this point, the 7 superpowers had been annihilated by the Haurangian sect. There was no longer any chance for them to make a comeback. Fortunately, The other forces did not know that when the Haurangian sect eliminated these hostile forces, they had also eliminated the foundation of these forces. In their opinion, the Haurangian sect's actions were strenuous and unrewarding. This was because they did not expect Yi Tianzong to use his powerful primordial spirit power and soul assimilation secret technique to search the souls of the leaders of the major forces. Otherwise, no matter how powerful the Haurangian sect was, they would still destroy the Haurangian sect at all costs. After destroying the 7 superpowers, the Haurangian sect plundered countless spiritual herbs, spiritual medicines, and other resources. Then they retreated to Tiangang Peak. The occupied areas were divided into units of 5,000 li and handed over to the Hauran Branch School to manage. As for the management of the Hauran Branch School, it was up to the Marquis Wu Rel members of the Haurangian sect to take turns. Yi Tianzong did not care about these specific plans. Now, he only needed to ensure the general direction of the Haurangian sect's development. As for the specific matters, the Haurangian sect had already trained a large number of people to deal with them. After dealing with external unstable factors, the Haurangian sect's energy turned to control the internal situation. Now that the world was expanding, the land was vast, and the population was sparse. In the future, as the seals of the world were constantly broken, the world would continue to expand. Therefore, the Haurangian sect formulated a series of measures to encourage fertility as a long-term plan. Then, in the following time, the more than 8 million disciples of the Haurangian sect all accepted missions. They carried out a detailed search of the Hauran mountain range, including the Haurangian sect's territory. They eliminated any possible abnormal phenomena. The rewards for the missions were generous. Under these measures, all the disciples of the Hauran mountain range gladly accepted the missions and left Tiangang Peak in groups. More than 8 million people scattered in a vast area of 100,000 li. They could not even cause a ripple. The higher-ups of the Haurangian sect were well aware of this. They did not expect to see results in a short period of time. They were all prepared to wait for a long time. In any case, the Haurangian sect had just plundered countless cultivation resources. Taking advantage of this long-term mission, they used all of them on the disciples. Why not? In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. During this year, everyone in the Haurangian sect was carefully searching the territory under their rule for any abnormal situations. So far, they did not find any signs of hidden forces. However, the higher-ups of the Haurangian sect did not give up. Even if they spent 10 years without any results, it was still worth it. However, even if they did not find any hidden forces, it was not that they did not gain anything. Under the careful search of the Haurangian sect, some of the dirty and dark things that were previously covered up in various cities and villages within the Hauran mountain range were unearthed by the Hauran mountain range's disciples. Many of these things were simply shocking and made people's hair stand on end. Because of the influence of the Hauran scripture, the upright and resolute disciples of the Hauran mountain range naturally would not sit back and do nothing. They revealed all the dark things that they found and ruthlessly killed all the people involved. They did not show any mercy. During this process, some things that made people not know whether to laugh or cry happened. Many of the tyrannical families in the cities were used to being free and unfettered. They considered everything beneath their notice. When facing the disciples of the Haurangian sect, they were still arrogant and domineering. They did not care about the crimes that they had committed. They even threatened the disciples of the Hauran mountain range to not meddle in other people's business. Otherwise, they would teach them a lesson. When faced with such a situation, the disciples of the Hauran mountain range would naturally not be polite. The Haurangian sect would always be the ruler of the area within a radius of 100,000 miles. Since when did it become the turn of this group of people who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth to be arrogant? Therefore, they did not hesitate to take action and directly sent them to meet the king of hell. If one person's strength was not enough, they would call for others. In any case, they had to take down all these people who had committed heinous crimes. After confirming that there was no mistake, they would directly execute them. After discovering such situations one after another, the disciples of the Howran mountain range reported it. The higher-ups of the Howranjan sect also paid attention to it. Once again, they issued a task at the Achievement Palace Hall to inspect and rectify the injustices in the entire Howran mountain range. All the injustices that were discovered must be dealt with strictly. They had to let everyone in the Howran mountain range know that the Howranjan sect was the only ruler. Another year passed. During this year, the search for hidden forces outside the Howran mountain range still did not yield any results. However, various injustices were discovered and severely punished. The results of the search in the Howran mountain range alerted the higher-ups of the Howranjan sect. In 2 years, the Howranjan sect search in the Howran mountain range had already advanced 3,000 miles. 2 months ago, when the disciples of the Howranjan sect continued their search in the depths of the Howran mountain range, a group of wild beasts suddenly appeared and fought with the disciples of the Howran mountain range. These wild beasts were very large in size and looked ferocious. Their claws and teeth were very sharp. Moreover, the strength of the strongest wild beast was equivalent to that of a Wu-Ling realm martial artist. According to the description of the Howran mountain range disciples, these wild beasts had a certain level of intelligence. They first sneakily attacked the disciples of the Howran mountain range. Then, when they fought with the disciples of the Howran mountain range, some of them escaped when the situation was unfavorable. When this situation was reported, it alerted the higher-ups of the Howranjan sect. Chapter 100. In the past, when the disciples of Howranjan sect went to the Howran mountain range to pick spiritual herbs, it was not as if they had not encountered all kinds of wild animals. After all, the Howran mountain range covered a vast area and was rich in natural resources. There were also many kinds of strange animals and birds. However, the strength of those animals was within the normal range of cognition, and they only had very simple spiritual intelligence. At the same time, there were also some animals that, after interacting with humans for a long time, would naturally develop some simple behavioral awareness and imitate the actions of humans. These were all normal phenomena. However, this time, the situation that the disciples of Howran mountain range discovered was very unusual. According to the description, the attacking beasts were not only much stronger than normal beasts, but their spiritual intelligence was also much higher than normal beasts. Different beasts even knew how to cooperate with each other. Furthermore, when the sneak attack failed after the battle with the disciples of Howran mountain range, they could still escape when the situation was unfavorable. There were only 2 possibilities for such a situation to occur. One was that with the recovery of the world, not only humans, but also other non-human creatures gradually increased their spiritual intelligence and embarked on the path of evolution. In the future, such situations would only increase. The other possibility was that there were really strange or human forces hidden in the Howran mountain range that the Howranjan sect had not discovered before. In the process of the recovery of the world, some conditions were triggered and these hidden forces began to appear one after another. Furthermore, they controlled some low-level beasts to test the Howranjan sect. No matter which of the 2 possibilities were, or if both of them existed, there was no doubt that Yi Tianzong's words were verified. The history of the profound spirit world was very long. No one knew how many forces had hidden because of the decline of the world. In any place in the world, there could be hidden forces that were not known to outsiders. The situation that the disciples of Howran mountain range discovered was intolerable to the Howranjan sect, who treated the Howran mountain range as their own backyard. They had to solve all the uncontrollable factors. Realizing that a more serious situation might occur, the higher-ups of Howranjan sect decided to send 200 King Wu and 1,000 Marquis Wu to support the disciples in the Howran mountain range after an emergency discussion. Furthermore, they decided to have Marquis Wu and King Wu lead more than 500,000 disciples in the Howran mountain range and divide them into 10 groups to continue investigating the Howran mountain range. They must find any abnormalities that could threaten the Howrangian sect, and at the same time, hunt down those beasts that had launched sneak attacks. On the third day after the higher-ups of the Howrangian sect sent King Wu and Marquis Wu to support the Howran disciples, the more than 500,000 disciples scattered in the Howran mountain range were once again attacked by various beasts. This time, the attacks were not small skirmishes like a few days ago, but a large-scale battle. More than 100,000 disciples of Howran mountain range were attacked by hundreds of thousands of beasts on the ground and in the air. In the face of the sudden attack, the disciples of Howran mountain range formed a sword formation one after another. After a difficult battle, they finally defeated the beasts at the cost of more than 5,000 casualties. Fortunately, 2 days ago, the higher-ups of Howrangian sect had issued an order for the Howran mountain range disciples to assemble. Otherwise, when faced with such a large number of beasts, the number of casualties would have at least doubled. The higher-ups of the Howrangian sect did not expect a more serious situation to occur so quickly. Through these two situations, it was obvious that these beasts were testing the Howrangian sect. In this regard, the higher-ups of the Howrangian sect no longer thought about taking things step by step and directly took out targeted measures. Since Yi Tianzong had participated in the management of the Howrangian sect for decades, the Howrangian sect had accumulated a lot of resources. Not to mention other things, just the 100 Herb Hall and the Weapons Formation Hall alone had achieved a lot with the support of Yi Tianzong. For example, the 100 Herb Hall now not only had thousands of people, but they had also developed more than 30 different kinds of elixirs, which were involved in all aspects of martial arts cultivation. Furthermore, the Weapons Formation Hall had not only forged a large number of weapons, but also developed more than 10 kinds of formations for various purposes. In the past, due to various reasons, the decades of accumulation could not be fully applied. Now, it was just right to respond to the crisis in the Howran mountain range. Yi Howran and a group of higher-ups first ordered the mobilization of 500,000 disciples to support the Howran mountain range. Then, they directly sent more than 80% of the higher-ups of the Howrangian sect to the Howran mountain range. At the same time, in order to strengthen their control over the Howran mountain range and support the battle of the Howran disciples, the higher-ups of the Howrangian sect decided to set up a total of 20 strongholds in the mountain range, with at least 50,000 people in each stronghold. They ordered the Weapons Formation Hall to set up defensive formations and spirit-gathering formations on the mountain peaks that would become strongholds. At the same time, they strengthened the support of weapons and various kinds of elixirs. Now that the situation was unclear, the Howrangian sect chose to prioritize defense in order to stabilize the situation. After 2 probing attacks, the enemies in the Howran mountain range would definitely not end things so hastily. Since they had chosen to attack the people of the Howrangian sect, it was obvious that they would not allow the Howrangian sect to interfere in the Howran mountain range. The relationship between the Howrangian sect and the Howrangian sect was completely hostile. It could be foreseen that there would definitely be another large-scale battle in the future. The two sides would have to compete many times before the ownership of the Howran mountain range could be decided. Therefore, the Howrangian sect must firmly control the territory that they had already occupied. At this time, mobilizing forces into the Howran mountain range would undoubtedly slow down the progress of investigating the other areas in the Howran mountain range. Therefore, while mobilizing the disciples of the Howran mountain range, the Howrangian sect simultaneously launched another plan. Strictly speaking, the 8 million disciples of the Howran mountain range referred to the disciples on Tiangang Peak. However, the total number of disciples in the Howrangian sect was far more than 8 million. Over the years, at least 400,000 disciples of the Howran mountain range had been deployed from Tiangang Peak to various cities in the territory that they ruled. At the same time, due to various reasons such as injuries, marriage, and elimination, the number of people who had withdrawn from the official disciple status of the sect, but still lived freely as outer disciples numbered in the hundreds of thousands. These were all forces that could be mobilized. However, these people were not mobilized for battle, but to replace the disciples of the Howran mountain range who had been deployed and continued to investigate suspicious situations in the Howran mountain range. At the same time, in order to deal with the future situation, the Howrangian sect once again began to recruit disciples on a large scale. They recruited millions of disciples in one go. These people could also be used to assist the Howrangian sect in the early stages of teaching the new disciples. While the people of the Howrangian sect were making preparations in full swing, a huge herd of beasts was also gathering in the depths of the Howran mountain range. At the foot of a towering mountain, millions of birds and beasts gathered here. At the same time, countless beasts were rushing to this place in an endless stream. At this time, millions of birds and beasts gathered here. Each of them was huge in size and had a violent aura. However, they forced themselves to endure and looked up ahead. At the place where the huge number of beasts gathered, there were hundreds of powerful beasts standing in the air. These powerful beasts were of different species, and most of them looked ferocious. Beasts were a name for ordinary beasts after they evolved. Like human warriors, beasts were also divided into levels. However, in order to make it easier to call each other, humans once compared the levels of beasts with the levels of human warriors. Below the myth realm, humans divided beasts into 9 levels. Level 1 beasts corresponded to the warrior realm of humans and so on. Level 9 beasts corresponded to the Wu Shang realm of humans. Only when beasts reached level 4, which was equivalent to the Wu Ling realm of humans, could they have a relatively complete spiritual intelligence and become a member of the middle class of beasts. They could command beasts below level 4 to fight. When beasts reached level 7, they became the upper class of beasts. Basically, they had intelligence that was not inferior to humans. The hundreds of powerful beasts standing in the air were all level 8 beasts. They were equivalent to the Wu Zun realm of humans. Moreover, each of them was at least in the late stage of level 8. Even the 3 leading beasts had faintly surpassed level 8 and were half a step into the threshold of level 9. The 3 demonic beasts were of normal size. One of them was the mystic winged tiger demon with 2 tails, a pair of wings, and purple golden eyes. The other was the colorful 9-headed demon bird with 9 heads. The other was the snow-white celestial demon marten with blood-red eyes. Although celestial ferret did not have a ferocious appearance, it could be seen from the fearful eyes of the black-winged tiger demon and the 9-headed demon bird that celestial ferret was the strongest among the 3. Looking at the endless number of low-level beasts that were still gathering, the black-winged tiger demon said to celestial ferret impatiently, "We've already probed the humans twice. It's been 7 days. I'm sure the humans have already sensed that something is wrong and have taken precautions. The longer we delay, the more trouble there will be. When are we going to attack the human forces and drive them out of the St. Meteorite Mountains?" Celestial Ferret casually said, slowly, "What's the hurry? Ever since we left the sacred land 3 years ago, didn't we already find out that there's only one human sect outside the St. Meteorite Mountains? However, this human sect is rather dangerous. I've wanted to investigate it before, but there's always a fatal sense of danger. In order to succeed in one go, we have to gather more forces to achieve our goal." The 9-headed demon bird interjected, "Hee blood ferret. You were the one who proposed the plan to drive the humans away. Black tiger demon, and I listened to you because of the sacred land's arrangements. However, we came out of the sacred land with a mission. If your plan fails this time and causes the strength of our devil clan to be damaged, you'll have to bear all the consequences." Celestial Ferret's blood-red eyes flashed with a bloody light and said in a deep voice, "Humph. I have my own plans for the mission assigned by the sacred land. There's no need for you to worry. Isn't the plan to drive the humans away this time for the sacred land's mission? The St. Meteorite Mountains have always been the territory of our devil clan. It was only after we entered the sacred land and went into hibernation thousands of years ago that the humans gradually occupied it. Is there a problem with my plan to take back our territory? Do you think that if we don't carry out this plan, with the humans watching from the side, we can peacefully develop our strength? Hearing this, the nine-headed demon bird and the black-winged tiger demon did not speak anymore. They continued to wait for the endless number of low-level beasts to gather below. Chapter 102. Hundreds of Class 8 monsters were waiting for the endless stream of low-level monsters to gather below. Little did they know that Yi Tianzong was hiding in the clouds above these monsters, looking down below, listening to the conversation of the three strongest monsters below. Yi Tianzong guessed that the Haran mountain range was the Saint Fallen mountain range that they were talking about. It used to be the territory of the monster race. However, due to the decline of the world, some monsters entered the holy land of the monster race to sleep in order to avoid death. They sealed off their connection with the outside world, which led to the Saint Fallen mountain range being occupied by humans. In the end, it became the Haran mountain range under the jurisdiction of the Hao Ranjin sect. Now that the world was recovering, the concentration of heaven and earth yuan qi had increased, which triggered some conditions. The sealed holy land of the monster race was opened again. However, due to the suppression of the world, the holy land of the monster race could only send out some juniors to carry out missions and develop the monster race. However, these juniors carrying out missions were unwilling to be left out. They wanted to drive away the human forces once and for all and take back the Saint Fallen mountain range that had been occupied by humans. Carefully observing the demonic beasts below, Yi Tianzong could feel the aura of those rank 8 demonic beasts. Their chaotic origin was flourishing. They were not like those seniors who were in deep slumber in the vast orthodox secret realm. It seemed that the holy land of the monster race in the Saint Fallen mountain range was not ordinary. After sleeping for such a long time, there were no signs of its potential being damaged. Wu Sheng definitely did not have such means. Only those who had reached the myth realm and refined their god, Yuan Qi, could do so. Maybe there was more than one myth realm monster in the holy land of the monster race in the Saint Fallen mountain range. Based on this, the monster race in the Saint Fallen mountain range was at least a powerful force that had been passed down since the beginning of the ancient era. I didn't expect that a non-human race force would really appear in the Haran mountain range just because I said so. Without him, the Hao Ranjin sect's current strength would not be enough to deal with them. However, this was also good. With him around, the Hao Ranjin sect would be invincible. The appearance of these demons would also give the Hao Ranjin sect a powerful opponent. As a result, everyone in Hao Ranjin sect would feel the pressure and would work even harder in their cultivation. Over the years, the righteous orthodoxy's upper echelons and disciples had become complacent after continuously suppressing and wiping out one superpower after another. As a result, they had slacked off in their cultivation. These demon forces had appeared at the right time. The Hao Ranjin sect would be very busy in the future. Yi Tianzong made up his mind. He did not continue to observe the demon clan below. Instead, he turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the sky. In just half an hour, he crossed thousands of miles and returned to Tiangang Peak. This time, he came to investigate the situation in the depths of the Haran mountain range, because Yi Tianzong had just come out of seclusion to relax. After hearing about the situation from Yi Haran, he immediately set off. Fortunately, Yi Tianzong had come out of seclusion at the right time. Moreover, he was powerful enough to investigate the important situation. Otherwise, based on the current preparations of the Hao Ranjin sect, they would not be able to resist the upcoming monster tide. After Yi Tianzong returned to Tiangang Peak, he told Yi Haoran and the higher-ups of the Hao Ranjin sect about the information he had found and his own speculations. After hearing the news and guesses brought back by Yi Tianzong, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect that there would be such a behemoth of the monster clan at their doorstep. Fortunately, because of the suppression of heaven and earth, those high-level monster beasts couldn't come out, giving the Howran Orthodox sect time and opportunity to develop. Otherwise, they would be finished now. After knowing about the upcoming monster tide, the higher-ups of the Howrangian sect discussed, and once again mobilized 500,000 official Howran disciples and 1 million newly recruited disciples into the Howran mountain range. The newly recruited 1 million disciples came from the public schools in every city. The weakest of them had reached the martial warrior realm. They were barely able to participate in the battle. This was a helpless move. After all, according to Yi Tianzong, millions of monsters had gathered in the depths of the Howran mountain range and were still gathering. The Howran mountain range now covered an area of more than 20,000 miles. The number of hidden monsters was definitely an astronomical figure. Even if only 1/10 of the monsters were gathered, it was still an enormous force. It could be predicted that the monster tide this time would be at least in the tens of millions. In order to resist the monster tide, the Howrangian sect could only send the newly recruited disciples into the Howran mountain range. Then, a large number of people were mobilized from Howran City to the Howran mountain range to build cities. They corresponded to the 20 strongholds of the Howrangian sect in the Howran mountain range and built 20 cities against the mountain peaks. Howran City was the city with the highest average strength and the largest population in the Howran mountain range. It was very fast to build a city with the help of cement by the martial warriors. In addition, except for a few people who maintained the operation of the sect, all the higher-ups of the sect were sent into the Howran mountain range to guard against the higher-ups of the demon clan. At the same time, the Howrangian sect's previous cultivation method, tendon-changing primordial skill, was made public to the public schools in every city in the Howran mountain range to strengthen the backup forces of the Howrangian sect. In addition, the Warriors for Hire Guild was set up in every city under the influence of the Howrangian sect. The Warriors for Hire Guild was an organization that the Howrangian sect had planned to set up in the Central Plains. It was an organization that would integrate and utilize the strength of the martial warriors. Originally, it was set up to deal with the possibility of a racial war in the future, or to gather information that they needed to know. However, they didn't expect to cross paths with the demon clan so quickly, so they took advantage of the opportunity to set up the Warriors for Hire Guild. Through the Warriors for Hire Guild, any martial warrior could receive weapons, pills, cultivation methods, and other rewards by accepting and completing missions within the guild. At the same time that the Warriors for Hire Guild was set up, the Howrangian sect issued a mission within the Warriors for Hire Guild to gather martial warriors to fight against the demon clan. Some of the information involved in the mission was also made public. The mission to fight against the demon clan was a long-term mission. Everyone in the Howrangian sect knew that as the world recovered and expanded in the future, the Howran mountain range would become wider and wider, and the demon clan would become stronger and stronger. For the sake of the sect's interests, it was basically impossible for them to coexist peacefully with the demon clan. This was destined to be a long and drawn-out war. The strength of the Howrangian sect alone was clearly insufficient. If that was the case, the rise of the Howrangian sect would be hindered and even decline. Only by gathering countless martial warriors in the Central Plains could they ensure the continued development of the sect and resist the attack of the demon clan. It just so happened that the various martial arts techniques, spiritual herbs, spiritual weapons, spiritual materials, and other spoils of war that they had obtained from suppressing and destroying the demon clan could be put to good use. The establishment of the Warriors for Hire Guild and the mission to fight against the demon clan issued by the Howrangian sect had undoubtedly caused a huge uproar in the Central Plains. Countless people and forces were extremely shocked. With the expansion of the world, the methods that humans used to transmit information had also become faster and faster. In addition to the ordinary messenger eagles, there was also the 1,000-mile sound transmission talisman. However, this method of communication was only used by the various martial warriors and could not be popularized. In less than 20 days, The mission to fight against the demon clan by the warriors for Higher Guild and the Haurangian sect had spread throughout the entire Central Plains. Most of the forces rejoiced in the Haurangian sect's misfortune. However, the other martial warriors who were closer to the various mountain ranges and jungles became vigilant. Since the Haurangian sect could encounter the demon clan in the mountain ranges, then it was not impossible for them to encounter the demon clan who were closer to the mountain ranges and jungles. They had to investigate carefully. Chapter 103. While the Central Plains was in turmoil because of the news of the warriors for Higher Guild and the appearance of the demon clan, the Haurangian sect was making use of the time to prepare for war. It had been a month since the second demon clan probe. Under the frantic operation of the Haurangian sect, they had finished setting up 20 mountain peaks in the Hauran mountain range. They had allocated large amounts of various materials and built many houses. At least 3 types of defensive formations, spirit-gathering formations, and psychedelic formations had been deployed on these 20 mountain peaks. At least 120,000 people were stationed on each mountain peak. At the same time, the general outline of the city at the foot of each mountain peak had been completed. Some houses had also been built. Each city was built to accommodate 500,000 people. The city walls of each city were 200 feet high and 100 feet thick. On the city walls, the people of the Formation Tools Hall had also carved 2 layers of defensive formations to reinforce the city walls. It could be said that the city walls were impregnable. At this time, in addition to the 5 million disciples of the Haurangian sect who had entered the Hauran mountain range and were stationed on the 20 mountain peaks, hundreds of thousands of warriors who had accepted the mission from the warriors for Higher Guild began to arrive at the Hauran mountain range one after another. Under the guidance of the disciples of the Haurangian sect, they entered the newly built city. Moreover, a large number of warriors were still on their way. All the disciples of the Haurangian sect in the Hauran mountain range were busy. The top forces of the Haurangian sect, such as King Wu and Wu Zun, were all scattered in the sky above the 20 strongholds. They were constantly observing the movements of the demon clan in the depths of the Hauran mountain range in order to prevent any unexpected situations from happening. Currently, the Haurangian sect had more than 210 masters of the Wu Zun realm. However, more than half of them were in the early and middle stages of the Wu Zun realm. King Wu had more than 2,500 masters. Although the number of masters of the Haurangian sect, such as King Wu and Wu Zun, was much smaller than the number of level 7 and level 8 monsters that Yi Tianzong had seen gathered, the masters of the Haurangian sect were definitely stronger than the monsters because of Yi Tianzong. Once a real large-scale battle broke out, although the people of the Haurangian sect would be at a disadvantage, they would not be defeated in a short time. After another 7 days, more and more cultivators arrived from various places. The number of people had already exceeded 500,000. These people were a mixture of good and bad people. They had all kinds of identities and different purposes. Some of them were ordinary rogue cultivators. They were all here for martial arts techniques, elixirs, and so on. There were also people from other third-rate, second-rate, first-rate, and even superpowers. There were also people who were lone wolves, spies, and other identities. On this day, the masters of the Haurangian sect, such as King Wu and Wu Zun, were in the sky above the Hauran mountain range. They were observing the movements of the Hauran mountain range from afar. Suddenly, they heard the sound of thousands of monsters galloping and roaring. Not long after, they saw an endless number of monsters galloping towards them from afar. Wherever they passed, dust would fly and the earth would tremble. All the trees in the forest would be flattened by the endless number of monsters. Nothing could stop them. Above the sky, there seemed to be an endless number of birds flying towards them. They looked at the seemingly endless, rolling torrents on the ground and in the sky in shock. Was this the monster tide? Everyone was stunned by what they saw. The endless momentum of flattening everything made everyone deeply feel their own insignificance and powerlessness. After coming back to their senses, all the masters of the Hao Ranjin sect, including King Wu and Wu Zun, rushed back to their station in the Howran mountain range. They were about 6,000 miles deep into the Howran mountain range. They were about 3,000 miles away from the front line of the Hao Ranjin sect in the mountain range. According to the speed of the monster tide outbreak, it would take at least 2 days for them to reach the stronghold of the Hao Ranjin sect and attack. After all, it was impossible for a monster tide outbreak to travel thousands of miles continuously. They would definitely need to rest in the middle. 2 days was enough for the Hao Ranjin sect to make emergency preparations. They quickly rushed back to the station in the Howran mountain range and informed everyone of the monster tide outbreak. They were less than 3,000 miles away. Everyone who was still outside the city returned to the city and made the final preparations. Within the 20 cities built by the Hao Ranjin sect, there was a treasure exchange pavilion set up by the Hao Ranjin sect in each city. The treasure exchange pavilion had all kinds of elixirs, weapons, martial arts techniques, and so on that the Hao Ranjin sect had developed. All warriors could buy what they needed in the treasure exchange pavilion as long as they could afford it. The waiting time was torturous and heavy. In the afternoon of the second day, all the people in the Howran mountain range heard the rumbling sound of thousands of monsters running and roaring. They felt the earth tremble, and everyone knew that the monster tide was coming. However, in the evening, at a place far from the city, the monster tide stopped. There was no movement, as if it had already retreated. However, no one was naive enough to think that the monster tide had already retreated. They all knew that the monsters were resting and waiting for the real outbreak to happen tomorrow. After a sleepless night, when the sun had just risen the next day, everyone was ready. They held their weapons and walked to the top of the city wall, looking outside the city anxiously. During these days of waiting, the people of the righteous nation had already cleared all the trees within 3 miles of each city, leaving only tree stumps that were less than half a meter tall, which could slightly obstruct the advance of the beast horde. Not long after the people in the city were ready, waves of roars broke through the sky and reached everyone's ears. Everyone's face turned cold as they realized that the monster tide was about to erupt. Sure enough, after the endless beast roars, the earth began to tremble, and an endless number of demonic beasts rushed towards all the cities. Even though they were dozens of miles away, they could still feel the rolling momentum that could crush everything. Everyone looked at the forest in the distance with their bodies tense. Everyone grasped the weapons in their hands tightly. The rumbling sound of running and the roars of the monsters became louder and clearer. The people could already see the billowing smoke and dust in the sky above the forest and the countless flying beasts. On the other side, behind the endless monsters, more than 600 grade 8 monsters flew in the sky. Their eyes were bloodthirsty and cruel. They drove the low-grade monsters below them toward the human cities. They were getting closer and closer. The people in the cities finally saw the endless monsters running toward them. Wherever the demonic beasts passed, everything was flattened. Everyone could only see a seemingly endless number of demonic beasts pouncing towards them. A tyrannical and bloodthirsty aura surged out, causing everyone's breathing to become hurried and heavy. Before the endless monsters on the ground arrived, the countless flying beasts in the sky had already descended and attacked the people in the cities. In a moment, the entire sky darkened and was filled with countless flying beasts. The people in the cities immediately fought with the attacking flying beasts. While the people were dealing with the flying beasts that covered the sky, the countless monsters on the ground rushed to the bottom of the city walls in the blink of an eye and started to attack. The endless waves of demonic beasts collided directly with the city walls of each city. A large number of low-grade monsters stopped the moment they collided with the city walls. They were directly killed by the counterforce. Then they were trampled into meat paste by the monsters behind them. Endless monsters rushed forward wave after wave. continuously attacking the city walls, vowing to smash and flatten the city walls. After being reinforced with 2 layers of defensive runes, the 30-zhang thick city wall remained undamaged under the impact of the countless demonic beasts. It firmly blocked the impact of the demonic beasts, making everyone in the city feel relieved. The city walls were 20 feet tall. The monsters on the ground could not attack for a while. Even if some monsters jumped on the city walls with their innate talents, they were not much of a threat. While the situation was not too serious, they first dealt with a part of the monsters in the sky to reduce the pressure. Chapter 104. The flying demonic beasts in the air were more threatening than the demonic beasts on the ground. These flying demonic beasts were huge, and their numbers covered the sky. They were fast and had the advantage in the air, which made the warriors in every city very passive. In just a short moment of contact, many warriors were injured or killed by the flying demonic beasts. Fortunately, the Hao Ranjin sect was prepared to deal with these flying demonic beasts. The most direct and effective way to deal with the flying demonic beasts was to use a large number of air forces to restrain them. The second method was to use sound wave attacks to kill the demonic beasts. The Hao Ranjin sect didn't have air forces, but they had prepared sound wave attacks. In every city, there were 10 Qingwu who had mastered sound attack martial techniques. They were evenly distributed in the specially built buildings in every city. These buildings were all equipped with sound amplification, transmission, and defense arrays set up by the people of the Array Tool Palace. These Qingwu were protected by Marquis Wu and Wuzong. While the disciples of the Haoran sect and the hired warriors in the city were passively dealing with the flying demonic beasts, these Qingwu launched sound attack martial techniques. Through the sound amplification and transmission arrays, they spread to the sky above every city. The effect of this attack was immediately apparent. Many flying demonic beasts immediately lost their balance after being hit by the sound wave attack and lost their sense of direction. Some of the flying demonic beasts wobbled and directly crashed into the demonic beasts beside them. Some even fell directly from the sky and fell to their deaths. This situation immediately attracted the attention of the demonic beasts. After identifying the source of the sound wave attack, a large number of flying demonic beasts immediately rushed dauntlessly towards the Qingwu who had launched sound attack martial techniques. At this time, Wu Ho and Wu Zong, who were guarding around the city, started a fierce battle with these flying demonic beasts. They were determined not to let these flying demonic beasts get any closer. For low-level warriors, these flying demonic beasts were big trouble. But for Marquis Wu and Wu Zong, it was much easier. Wu Zong and Marquis Wu were very powerful. They could launch attacks using the vital essence in their bodies. Furthermore, they had set up a defensive array formation where they were at to prevent these flying demonic beasts from destroying the buildings. Therefore, Wu Zong and Marquis Wu, who were guarding the flying demonic beasts, slaughtered them without any hesitation. Every second, a large number of flying demonic beasts were killed by Wu Zong and Marquis Wu. Seeing that they had not achieved much, the Yao beasts could no longer hold back. They directly sent out even more high-grade flying Yao beasts to launch an attack. At the same time, higher-grade Yao beasts were also sent out from the ground to attack the city walls. They flew over the city walls, wanting to enter the city. This attack was so powerful that the warriors of the Marquis Wu realm, the Wu King realm, and the Wu Zun realm of the Hao Ranjin sect stationed in the city also set out to kill the demonic beasts. The battle between humans and demonic beasts reached its climax. Every second, humans and demonic beasts died. Blood dyed the city walls red. All the warriors guarding the city walls fought hard to kill all the demonic beasts that attempted to cross the city walls and enter the city. On the ground, the warriors and demonic beasts were engaged in a fierce battle. In the sky, the battle between humans and flying demonic beasts and high-grade demonic beasts was also in full swing. Those low-grade flying demonic beasts attacked the warriors in the city and King Wu, who used the sound attack martial technique. The remaining high-grade demonic beasts and high-grade flying demonic beasts with the ability to fight in the air were fighting Marquis Wu, Wu King Realm, and Wu Zun of the Hao Ranjin sect. Although the demonic beasts had a large number of demonic beasts, they had an obvious disadvantage. That was, there were many level 7 demonic beasts that corresponded to King Wu. There were already more than 7,000 of them. There were very few level 6 demonic beasts. This was because the demonic beasts that could enter the holy land of the demon clan to hibernate were at least level 7 demonic beasts. Level 6 demonic beasts were not qualified to enter the holy land of the demon clan to hibernate to protect themselves unless they had great potential or bloodline. As time went by, the world declined. Those demonic beasts that did not enter the holy land of the demon clan to hibernate had all died. In recent decades, the world had recovered. It was extremely difficult to become a high-grade demonic beast under the nose of the Hao Ranjin sect. After all, although the expansion of the world had reduced the Hao Ranjin sect's control over the Hauran mountain range, in the past, the Hao Ranjin sect could enter and leave the mountain range freely. No demonic beast could escape the control of the Hao Ranjin sect. It was almost impossible for a low-grade demonic beast to become a level 6 demonic beast within a few decades. This shortcoming of the demonic beasts also gave the Hao Ranjin sect a chance to breathe. According to the situation of the battle, the experts of the Hao Ranjin sect were obviously much stronger than the demonic beasts of the same level. Therefore, the nearly 20,000 Marquis Wu of the Hao Ranjin sect began to fight freely without the level 6 demonic beasts to hold them back. Although the experts of the Marquis Wu could not fly in the air for a long time like King Wu, they could still fly in the air for a short period of time. As long as they still had more than 30% of their vital essence and had a place to rest and breathe, the experts of the Marquis Wu could also fly in the air and fight for a long time. Therefore, more than 10,000 Marquis Wu experts of the lower level were fighting against the level 4 and level 5 flying demonic beasts. The remaining experts of the late stage and peak stage of the Marquis were all fighting against the level 7 demonic beasts. If one person could not defeat a demonic beast, at least 5 people would besiege a level 7 demonic beast. In this way, the pressure on King Wu and Wu Zun was greatly reduced. The high-level combat forces of the humans and demonic beasts were fiercely fighting in the sky above each city. The impact of the battle spread over thousands of miles in the sky. From time to time, demonic beasts and experts of the Hao Ranjin sect would fall. The impact of the countless attacks would often affect the humans and demonic beasts fighting on the ground below. However, most of the time, the demonic beasts would be affected more. In this way, the battle between the humans and the demonic beasts was in a stalemate. Although the attacking demonic beasts seemed to be endless in number, they had the upper hand in the entire battle. However, the humans relied on the cities and various means to defend themselves. They also had the support of the martial arts experts. Although they were at a disadvantage, they still firmly resisted the attacks of the demonic beasts and caused a lot of damage to the demonic beasts. In the sky above the rear of the demonic beasts, more than 600 level 8 demonic beasts with strong auras were looking at the distant battlefield with unpleasant expressions. The black-winged tiger demon said in a deep voice, "I didn't expect this human sect to have such strength and be able to resist the attack of the demonic beast tide. So many of our level 7 demonic beasts were also stopped by them. Even though we were outnumbered, we still suffered more casualties." The 9-headed demon bird said with a piercingly cold, murderous intent, "The stronger they are, the more they should be destroyed. This human sect must not be left alive. So what if they are strong? Now it seems that they have already used all their strength. Even if they still have trump cards, with such a strong lineup, we will definitely not let them turn the tables. Let's directly kill them and destroy them." After the 9-headed demon bird finished speaking, it looked directly at Celestial Ferret. A bloody light flashed in Celestial Ferret's blood-red eyes. He thought about the fatal danger he had felt when he was investigating. After pondering for a moment, he laughed and said, "Nine-headed demon bird is right. Even if this human sect has something to rely on, with our strength and line-up, we will not let them turn the tables. There is no need to delay any longer. Listen to my orders. We will all kill and destroy this human sect. We will take back the Saint Fallen Mountains." Just as Celestial Ferret finished speaking, a voice came from the sky. "You can't go anywhere. Just stay here." As soon as the voice fell, Yi Tianzong's family of 9 led 100 Wu Zun realm experts to descend from the sky. They landed in front of Celestial Ferret and more than 600 level 8 demonic beasts, blocking their way. Chapter 105. Looking at Yi Tianzong and the others descending from the sky, Celestial Ferret's expression did not change, but her heart was heavy. She was wondering when these humans had approached them, and why she did not notice them at all. The fatal danger she felt earlier was not an illusion. Looks like you guys are the last support of that human sect. However, do you think you can stop us with just the few of you? Since you've shown yourselves, we'll kill you first. The 9-headed demon bird looked at Yi Tianzong and the others with disdain, and said with a cold, murderous intent. However, it did not notice that the black-winged tiger demon and Celestial Ferret beside it were silent. Hearing the words of the demon beast, Yi Tianzong smiled indifferently and did not say anything. Then his expression became calm, and he directly released his full strength, releasing his strongest aura towards the 600 Class 8 demon beasts. Feeling Yi Tianzong's actions, Ling Xinyue and the others also released their strongest aura towards the demon beasts. The 9-headed demon bird saw that Yi Tianzong and the others were indifferent to its words, and was immediately enraged. Just as it was about to attack, an invincible aura suddenly erupted from Yi Tianzong's body. In an instant, all of the Class 8 demon beasts, including the 9-headed demon bird, were intimidated by Yi Tianzong's invincible aura. Their minds were shaken, and the strength in their bodies stagnated for a moment, almost causing them to fall down. However, they immediately reacted, and under the anger in their hearts, they all released their strongest aura to resist Yi Tianzong's aura and tried to suppress him. However, what shocked them was that the aura of over 600 Class 8 demon beasts could not gain any advantage against Yi Tianzong's aura. Instead, they were at a disadvantage. They immediately became vigilant and stopped underestimating him. Just as they were shocked by Yi Tianzong's invincible aura, Ling Xinyue and the others' auras, which were second only to Yi Tianzong's, and how Ranjin Sek's aura combined to suppress the demon beasts, causing them to be at an absolute disadvantage. How was this possible? How could a mere human sect have so many peerless geniuses? The black-winged tiger demon, Celestial Ferret, and the 9-headed demon bird, who were the leaders of the demon beasts, were shocked beyond words. The demon beasts of the Saint Fallen mountain range had been passed down since the mythological era, and they had accumulated a lot of secret information. They had also entered the demon beasts' holy land to hibernate thousands of years ago at the beginning of the late ancient era. Before that, they had interacted with humans many times, so they were naturally familiar with human geniuses. Moreover, the 3 of them were outstanding geniuses of their respective tribes. Otherwise, why would they be selected by the higher-ups of the Holy Land to carry out missions outside the Holy Land? However, among all the human geniuses that they knew or had heard of, it was difficult to find anyone who could be compared to the 9 people in front of them who gave them the greatest pressure. Not to mention the strongest person. Even the other 8 people were much stronger than them. Based on the information they had, they might be able to find some geniuses who were on par with the other 8 geniuses, or even slightly stronger than them. However, there was absolutely no geniuses from any of the clans who could compare with the young man in front of them. He was fighting against more than 600 of them alone, and he even had the upper hand in terms of momentum. This was simply beyond their understanding of geniuses. The 3 of them were also geniuses of the demon beasts at the beginning of the late ancient era. Although they weren't the strongest, they were definitely in the second tier. They were all geniuses of their respective tribes and were at the same cultivation level, but the difference between them was too great. Could it be that the demon beasts had missed out on some great opportunity? Were all humans so powerful that any random sect could have so many powerful geniuses? Or were we just unlucky to encounter the strongest sect of humans the moment we were born? Just as the black-winged tiger demon, celestial ferret, and the 9-headed demon bird's minds were in turmoil, Yi Tianzong disappeared from their sight, and the other humans on the opposite side quickly retreated. Not good. All the demon beasts felt the danger in their hearts rise to the peak. Before they could do anything, Yi Tianzong appeared in the middle of the demon beast side. At this time, more than 600 Class 8 demon beasts were all gathered together because they were unprepared. This made it easier for Yi Tianzong to deal a fatal blow to them. Yi Tianzong still preferred to use the universe force field when it came to attacking a group of people. This was because the opponents Yi Tianzong had encountered so far were much weaker than him. Therefore, using the universe force field was the best way to fight a group of people. Once the universe force field was used, all the demon beasts felt as if they were in a quagmire, and it was difficult for them to move. At the same time, the sense of danger in their hearts rose steadily, causing the demon beasts to use all their strength to break free from the bindings. Yi Tianzong had never used the universe force field to trap more than 600 late-stage Class 8 demon beasts and above at one time. However, he also knew that he couldn't trap so many demon beasts for a long time. He could only trap them for a short period of time. It was during this short period of time that Yi Tianzong launched his attack. Endless sword chi that could cut through anything was released from Yi Tianzong's body, forming a sword chi storm that covered a radius of 3 miles and was hundreds of feet high. Compared to the last time Yi Tianzong used the sword chi storm when he was in the Qingwu realm, this time Yi Tianzong had crossed a big realm and reached the peak of the Wuzun realm. Naturally, the power of the sword chi storm was not the same as before. Standing 5 miles away and watching Yi Tianzong's sword chi storm in the distance, Ling Xinyue and the others, as well as the Wuzun experts of the Haoranjin sect, were all amazed. They could never reach this level of strength. They could feel the power of each sword chi and the fatal danger. Everyone in the Haoranjin sect couldn't help but mourn for the demon clan. More than 600 Class 8 demon beasts of the demon clan were enveloped and attacked by Yi Tianzong's sword chi storm. In order to save their lives, they used all their strength and launched their strongest attacks, desperately trying to create a gap to escape from the attack range of the sword chi storm. Under the desperate attacks of these demon beasts, there were successes and failures. In the end, when Yi Tianzong only had 20% of his vital essence left in his body, he stopped attacking and the sword chi storm gradually dissipated. Activating the Aurora Instantaneous Shadow, Yi Tianzong disappeared from the center of the demon beast side in a flash and reappeared in front of them. His face was pale as he swallowed 2 elixirs. In a moment, the large amount of vital essence in his body was restored by 20%, and it was still recovering quickly. At the same time, Ling Xinyue, Yi Haoran, and the others of the Haoranjin sect, who had left earlier, flew over again. Ling Xinyue and a few Wuzun experts were left behind to protect Yi Tianzong. The rest of the people flew towards the demon beasts that had just escaped from the sword chi storm and launched their attacks directly. The paleness on Yi Tianzong's face disappeared. He had recovered 60% of his vital essence. He let out a long sigh of relief and moved slightly to stand side by side with Ling Xinyue. He looked at the results of his attack. At this time, the demon clan side, which originally had more than 600 level 8 demon beasts, was only left with slightly more than 300. The remaining demon beasts were all in a miserable state. They were all injured and dripping with blood. Their injuries varied in severity. The surviving demon beasts were being chased by Yi Haoran and the others, with Yi Haoran, Yi Yuanshan, and other members of Yi Tianzong's family leading the way. The remaining 300 demon beasts on the demon clan's side were forced to retreat. From time to time, some demon beasts were killed. On the demon beast side, the black-winged tiger demon, nine-headed demon bird, and celestial ferret led the surviving demon beasts to resist the humans' attack with difficulty. The resentment and horror in their hearts were indescribable. In the past, they would never have thought that such a scene would happen one day. There were more than 600 powerful demon beasts in the late stage and peak stage of level 8. They were not low-level demon beasts. Unexpectedly, so many of their companions were killed by a human who was at the same level as them. Even those level 9 demon beasts might not have such strength. These hateful humans have been pestering us and making it impossible for us to retreat. Once that person recovers, we'll be finished. As they resisted the humans' attack with difficulty and anxiety, some of the demon beasts saw that Yi Tianzong in the distance had returned to normal. They could not help but feel despair in their hearts. Chapter 106. After going through that hellish experience just now, they could not even think of resisting Yi Tianzong. The difference between them was like heaven and earth. In this kind of desperate mood, Yi Haoran and the others seized the opportunity to mercilessly kill dozens of more seriously injured demonic beasts. The strength of the demonic beast clan was once again reduced. Yi Tianzong stood in the air in the distance. He did not participate in the battle between Yi Haoran and the others and the demonic beasts. Of the more than 600 demonic beasts that came this time, he only needed to kill the 3 leaders. Yi Tianzong did not intend to let the rest of the level 8 demonic beasts go. At the same time, Yi Tianzong also let Ling Xinyue and the few Wu Zun who had been protecting him just now join the battle. Since breaking the seal of heaven and earth for the 3rd time, they had not engaged in a battle for a long time. No enemy had come to provoke them either. All of the Wu Zun could not suppress the desire to fight in their hearts. This time, they might as well let them fight to their heart's content. However, Yi Tianzong was not completely uninvolved. With his presence, these demonic beasts could not escape. They could only be gradually eliminated by the people on his side. In such a desperate situation, it was very likely that they would self-destruct with the idea of perishing together, dragging the people of Hao Ranzhen's sect down with them. In order to prevent such a situation from happening, Yi Tianzong's primordial spirit power always enveloped the entire battlefield. As long as a demonic beast self-destructed and wanted to perish together with the others, Yi Tianzong would use the primordial spirit power to attack the demonic beast that wanted to self-destruct. He would erase the demonic beast's intelligence and eliminate the danger of self-destruction. Just as Yi Tianzong expected, the remaining demonic beasts began to self-destruct when they saw that they could not escape. They wanted to drag the people of Hao Ranzhen sect down with them. Yi Tianzong, who had been paying attention to this, directly used the primordial spirit attack to erase the demonic beast's intelligence in an instant. The demonic beasts that had lost their intelligence also fell from the sky. After about 2 hours of battle, apart from the black-winged tiger demon, celestial ferret, and the 9-headed demon bird, Yi Tianzong was the last to capture a peak level 8 demon beast. The rest of the demon beasts were all killed by the people of Hao Ranzhen sect. For this reason, most of Wu Zun was injured in the battle with the demonic beasts, but it wasn't very serious. After the battle ended, he immediately took a healing pill. The black-winged tiger demon, celestial ferret, and the 9-headed demon bird saw that the humans surrounding them had no intention of continuing to attack. Celestial ferret endured the severe injuries on her body and asked in a deep voice, "Human, why are you keeping the 3 of us here?" Yi Tianzong carried a severely injured peak level 8 demon beast and came in front of celestial ferret. He smiled faintly and said nothing much. "I just feel that you guys are still useful." "Why? Don't you plan to tell me where you came from?" "Don't worry. Since I'm keeping you alive, I have no intention of killing you. In exchange for your lives, you should also tell me some information that I should know. This way, everyone will be happy. Isn't that right?" The black-winged tiger demon and the nine-headed demon bird didn't say anything. Celestial Ferret had no choice but to say again, "Why should we believe you? You are humans and we are demonic beasts. Since ancient times, demonic beasts and humans have been enemies. We have seen too many cases of you, humans, going back on your words. You should just attack. Don't even think of getting any information from us." Seeing how stubborn Celestial Ferret was, Yi Tianzong didn't say anything else. Instead, he directly lifted the dying level 8 demon beast in his hand and activated the soul secret technique. In just an instant, the dying level 8 demon beast was controlled by Yi Tianzong. Yi Tianzong said to the demon beast under his control, "Tell me everything you know." Seeing how their comrade, who was originally on their side, was being controlled by a human and had a dull look in his eyes as he spoke everything he knew, the black-winged tiger demon, the nine-headed demon bird, and Celestial Ferret trembled. A hint of fear appeared in their eyes. Was this a soul search? It didn't seem like it. The three of them were born in the early stages of the ancient era. They had heard that humans had a vicious soul search technique. The conditions for this soul search technique were very complicated and very dangerous. Furthermore, the soul of the target who was soul searched would eventually be destroyed. However, regardless of whether it was a soul search technique or not, they didn't have any other choice in the current situation. After the demon beast whose soul was soul searched finished speaking, Yi Tianzong crushed the dying demon beast in his hand. With a calm expression, he said unquestionably, the Hao Ranjin sect was the one who broke the seal of heaven and earth and allowed heaven and earth to recover. Right now, within a radius of 200,000 li, our Hao Ranjin sect is the only sect. This isn't a good thing at the moment. The Hao Ranjin sect needs an opponent. The demon race has appeared at the right time. The three of you can lead the demon race to occupy the Howran mountain range, which is also the Saint Fallen mountain range that you call the Howran mountain range. You will become the training targets and whetstones for the disciples of the Howran sect. Now, tell me everything you know. After hearing Yi Tianzong's words, the black-winged tiger demon, the nine-headed demon bird, and Celestial Ferret looked at each other in shock. They didn't expect that the recovery of heaven and earth was actually the work of a human sect. Sensing Yi Tianzong's unquestionable tone, the black-winged tiger demon, the nine-headed demon bird, and Celestial Ferret knew that if they continued to refuse, their souls would be soul-searched. At that time, they would inevitably die. Who would want to die if they could live? They had just come out of the sacred land and hadn't lived enough. They still wanted to advance to a higher level in the future. Furthermore, even if they refused, their souls would still be soul-searched in the end. There was no value in dying. However, they couldn't be the only ones who leaked the secret. Everyone had to be involved. At this moment, they had long regretted starting the beast tide. They didn't expect that they would provoke such a terrifying enemy right after they left the sacred land and hadn't even displayed their strength. After looking at each other, they all understood each other's thoughts. Thus, the black-winged tiger demon, the nine-headed demon bird, and Celestial Ferret told him everything they knew. Fortunately, the location of the sacred land had already been found out by the human through soul-searching. The biggest secret left was how to open the sacred land. When talking about this secret, the black-winged tiger demon, the nine-headed demon bird, and Celestial Ferret were very hesitant. However, under the pressure of Yi Tianzong's vast aura, the three of them still spoke slowly. After revealing their biggest secret, the black-winged tiger demon, the nine-headed demon bird, and Celestial Ferret went all out. They spilled everything they knew. After speaking, the three of them looked at Yi Tianzong. They felt uneasy and waited for Yi Tianzong's arrangement. Right now, the three of them were prey waiting to be slaughtered. They didn't have any other choice. Yi Tianzong thought for a moment. Then he said to Yi Howran and the others, "The sacred land of the shifter race is 12,000 miles away. Starting from Tiangang Peak, 8,000 miles into the Howran mountain range will be our territory. The area from 8,000 miles to 9,000 miles will be our buffer zone with the shifter race. Beyond 9,000 miles will be the shifter race's territory. What do you all think? Yi Harin thought for a moment and said, "All right. In the future, when we break the seal of heaven and earth, the Harin mountain range will continue to expand. This distance will ensure our interests and won't be too close to the sacred land of the shifter race. We'll do as you say." After Yi Harin finished speaking, the others naturally didn't have any objections. Chapter 107. Thus Yi Tianzong turned around and said to the black-winged tiger demon, nine-headed demon bird, and celestial ferret, "Did you hear what I said just now? From now on, the situation in the Harin mountain range will be like this. The three of you will lead the remaining demonic beasts of this beast tide and retreat 8,000 li away from here. We will build a city at the 8,000 li distance. When the time comes, not only will there be members of the Hao Ranjin sect in the city, there will also be other humans of different identities. The Harin mountain range is rich in spiritual herbs. You are not allowed to invade within 8,000 li outside of 8,000 li. Humans and demonic beasts will use their own methods, regardless of life or death. However, for the disciples of the Hao Ranjin sect, unless they provoke us, you demonic beasts of class 6 and above are not allowed to take the initiative to attack. Is there a problem? Is there a problem? Of course there is no problem. Right now, we have no choice but to follow whatever you say. The black-winged tiger demon, nine-headed demon bird, and celestial ferret looked at each other. In the end, celestial ferret braced herself and said, "As long as the three of us are still in charge of the Harin mountain range, there will be no problem. However, you must know that we came out of the sacred land with a mission. Although the experts of the demonic beast clan cannot leave the sacred land due to the restrictions of the heavens and earth, we have to return to the secret realm regularly to report the progress of our mission. There are still 7 years before we have to return to the secret realm to report the progress of our mission. This time, we have to report the situation of the beast tide. Let's not talk about whether or not we can come out alive. Even if we don't die, the higher-ups of the sacred land will send other demonic beasts who are more outstanding than us to take charge of the situation in the Harin mountain range. When the time comes, don't blame us if anything happens." Yi Tianzong said non-committally, "Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the demonic beast clan sends out to take charge of the Harin mountain range. As long as they dare to provoke the Hao Ranjin sect, we can just destroy them. If we can't do it once, we can do it twice. There will always be someone who knows what to do." The black-winged tiger, demon, nine-headed demon bird, and celestial ferret couldn't help but tremble when they heard this. "All right, you are strong. You can say whatever you want. You want to do whatever you want. You are strong, you have a bigger fist. You are... A month. By then, all the demonic beasts of class 3 and above that haven't left will be the Harin. By then, all demonic beasts of class 3 and demon beasts that haven't left will be killed. Beasts of demonic beasts and beasts who are still not leave will be killed. Leave. After Yi Tianzong finished speaking, he didn't look at the 3 demonic beasts in front of him anymore. He left with the other members of the Hao Ranjin sect and headed towards the city below. Seeing Yi Tianzong and the others leave, the black-winged tiger demon, nine-headed demon bird, and celestial ferret knew what they were going to do. They really wanted to give the order to stop the attack and retreat immediately. However, when they thought of Yi Tianzong saying that they would wait for 15 minutes, they didn't dare to disobey. They could only obediently control their injuries while waiting for the time to come. They prayed that the number of class 7 demonic beasts under their command would be reduced as much as possible. 15 minutes was enough for Yi Tianzong and the others to do some things. After all, the beast tide was still ongoing. Every second that passed, many Harin mountain range disciples would be injured or die. Taking advantage of this 15 minutes, Yi Tianzong and the others could join the sky battlefield on the other side and kill more high-level demonic beasts and flying demonic beasts. Other than the experts from Wu Zun, who were more seriously injured in the battle just now, they returned to the nearest mountain stronghold of the Haoranjin sect to heal their injuries. The others split up with Yi Tianzong and joined the sky battlefield, respectively. They began to eliminate the demonic beasts that were fighting against the people of the Haoranjin sect. Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue chose a battlefield that was 300 li away. Yi Tianzong brought Ling Xinyue and arrived at the sky battlefield in a short time. The remaining people from Yi Haoran and the others, as well as dozens of Wu Zun, all joined the sky battlefield that was closest to them. With these people joining the sky battlefield, the situation of the battle immediately reversed. The Class 7 demonic beasts and flying demonic beasts on the demonic beast side suffered a large number of casualties. Their strength was greatly reduced. On the other hand, the people of the Haoranjin sect were overjoyed and launched a counterattack. Their morale was greatly boosted. 15 minutes passed very quickly. In the distance, the black-winged tiger demon, nine-headed demon bird, and celestial ferret hurriedly gave the order to retreat. After the order was given, the countless flying demonic beasts in the sky all turned around and returned to the forest. The endless flood of demonic beasts on the ground also gradually stopped and no longer attacked. They then turned around and roared as they retreated back the way they came. Just like that, the demonic beast tide finally came to an end under the surprised gazes of the human warriors in every city. After the victory was celebrated, the city gates of every city opened wide. All the warriors went out of the city to clean up the battlefield. They also dealt with the corpses of the dead demonic beasts and calculated their own battle merits. After they finished dealing with the corpses, it was time for the warriors to receive their mission rewards. All the mercenary warriors headed to the Warrior Mercenary Guild's branch in each city to settle the accounts of the mission rewards. Yi Tianzong and the higher-ups of the Haoranjin sect returned to Tiangang Peak after the battle ended. They did not pay attention to the rest of the matters. The Haoranjin sect had already formed a complete management system over the years. Naturally, there would be people in charge of the related matters. They did not immediately discuss the matter of the demonic beast clan. Instead, they let the injured people recuperate for a day. Then, they each went back to their own duties. They would discuss the matter again 3 days later. 3 days passed very quickly. On this day, all the higher-ups of the Haoranjin sect once again gathered in the Haoran main hall. Yi Haoran was the first to speak. Regarding the demonic beast tide this time, I'm sure everyone is clear about the ins and outs of the matter. From now on, in the Haoran mountain range, we have one more neighbor and enemy. According to the information we obtained from interrogations, the Haoran mountain range was originally called the Saint Fall mountain range. Before the demonic beast clan retreated, it had always been occupied by the demonic beast clan. The demonic beast clan that appeared was passed down from the mythological era. It was a sacred ground-level force with a very strong foundation, far surpassing our Haoranjin sect. However, we don't have to be afraid. The current environment is limited. No matter how many saint-level and mythical-level experts the demonic beast clan has, they can't come out. As we continue to break the restrictions of the world in the future, one day we will catch up with and surpass any other force. Today, we are mainly discussing the jurisdiction and control of the 8,000-mile mountain range. As soon as Yi Haoran finished speaking, Yi Haoyun was the first to speak. In my opinion, we should first open up at least 3 roads that lead directly into the depths of the mountain range. Then, we should build at least 10 cities along each road. The last 8,000-mile city will be the front line of our contact with the demonic beast clan. In the future, we may be attacked by the demonic beast clan at any time. We must build it on the largest scale and with the strongest standards. After this is done, We will build other cities in the mountain range under our jurisdiction according to the situation to strengthen our control over the Howran mountain range. The Merit Palace Master, Wang Li, agreed and said, Palace Master Yi is right. In addition, we must also manage the demonic beasts in the mountain range under our jurisdiction. We must set a rule for them that they cannot attack humans on the road without permission. It would be best if we can subdue some demonic beasts and use our resources to cultivate them. Then we will let them divide their territories and restrict the demonic beasts in their respective territories. It had to be said that the current higher-ups of the Howranjin sect were very talented. As long as the people present had any ideas to add, they would speak up. In less than an hour, the method and rules of how to govern and control the 8,000-mile Howran mountain range were basically formed. Next, they had to do things according to the rules. After the battle between the Howranjin sect and the demonic beast clan in the Howran mountain range, in other places in the Central Plains, the superpowers that were nearby or had already occupied a part of the mountain range discovered traces of the demonic beast clan one after another and clashed with them. Chapter 108. The forces of the demon clan began to emerge on a large scale. The superpowers that had once occupied a mountain range in the past basically fought with the newly emerged demon clan. Other than the Sky Demon Temple, the Lingyun Hall, and the Kunlun sect, which were three powerful forces that had existed since ancient times, the other superpowers that had emerged in the recent ancient times and had been passed down until now were all attacked by the forces of the demon clan that had appeared in the areas under their jurisdiction. After suffering heavy casualties, they were driven out of the mountain ranges that they had occupied. Even the sect's encampments were attacked by the demon clan, and they had to pay a heavy price to survive. At the same time that these forces of the demon clan appeared, with the recovery of the world, another group of human superpowers emerged. The superpowers that had emerged now were basically all from ancient times. They had a deep foundation and were very powerful. There were even a few powerful forces at the level of the Holy Land that had emerged. After the emergence of these forces, they also began to expand without restraint. They cleaned up and conquered the weak sects and forces. In just a few months, they had already occupied a large area. These superpowers that had emerged now were expanding without restraint. Naturally, they would clash with the previous batch of forces that had emerged. It could be foreseen that, as time passed, a battle between the two sides was inevitable. At that time, there would be another bloody storm in the Central Plains. At the same time, the Zhou dynasty had changed its name to the Zhou dynasty. A large number of Wu Zun experts had appeared. In the battle with the surrounding sects and forces, they had fiercely suppressed the arrogant sects and forces. At the Howranjin sect on Tiangang Peak, it had been 3 months since they had defeated the demon clan in the Howran mountain range. The Howranjin sect had mobilized all of its forces. At the same time, it had mobilized tens of millions of people under its jurisdiction and began to build roads and cities in the Howran mountain range. Everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. At this moment, in Howran's main hall, Yi Howran and the upper echelons of the sect were looking at some of the information sent back by the Tiangang Pavilion. It was all about some of the recent events in the Central Plains. There was news about the emergence of the demon race and the battle with the human sects in other places. There was also news about the emergence of a superforce once again. There was also news about the sudden change in the name of the Zhou dynasty and the sudden eruption of strength. Yi Howran passed the information he had received to the upper echelons of the various sections. In the end, he sighed and said, "During this period of time, a storm has been brewing. Another group of superforces with a long history has appeared and is expanding without restraint. Humans and demons are coexisting. There are also a few powerful forces that call themselves the Holy Lands. They are very domineering in their actions. The Central Plains is about to experience a reign of terror once again. It won't be long before our Howranjin sect faces another serious challenge." After sighing with emotion, Yi Howran looked at the fearless expressions of the people below and continued, "We'll deal with whatever comes our way. After going through so many things, we've never once retreated. If there are any challenges in the future, our Haurangian sect will definitely get through them. Now, let's talk about our investigation of the Xian NYU mountain range, the Demon Sword mountain range, the Azura mountain range, and the Jinwu mountain range. Have you found any traces of the demon race or any hidden super forces? Since the battle with the demon race in the Hauran mountain range broke out, all the upper echelons of the Haurangian sect were worried about the situation of the Xian NYU mountain range, the Demon Sword mountain range, the Azura mountain range, and the Jinwu mountain range. They immediately sent experts like King Wu and Wu Zun into these 4 mountain ranges to investigate. If there were human forces in these 4 mountain ranges, they could at most fight with them. After receiving enough compensation, it was not impossible to give the mountain ranges to them. However, if the demon race appeared, the Haurangian sect would be in danger. After Yi Hauran finished speaking, the administrative hall master, Zhao Xian, replied, "Sect master, for unknown reasons, the Xian NYU mountain range, the Demon Sword mountain range, the Azura mountain range, and the Jinwu mountain range are not as vast as the Hauran mountain range. After our preliminary investigation, we haven't found any abnormalities in the Xian NYU mountain range and the Demon Sword mountain range. However, we found some abnormalities in the Azura mountain range and the Jinwu mountain range. Among them, we found traces of human forces in the Azura mountain range. According to our investigation, the human force that appeared in the Azura mountain range is called the Blood God Palace. Judging from their style of action, they should belong to the Devil Path. We don't know their specific strength, but this Blood God Palace should have existed for a long time. Because of their vicious control secret method, they are secretly expanding their sphere of influence. They have already occupied nearly 100 cities. We need to deal with this force as soon as possible. In the Jinwu mountain range, we found traces of the devil race and have already fought with a level 8 devil race. However, we didn't find any more information. After Yi Hauran heard Zhao Xian's words, he pondered for a moment. Finally, he said, "Let's deal with things one by one. We don't care about the devil race in the Jinwu mountain range. I don't think they are as powerful as the devil race in the Hauran mountain range. As for the Blood God Palace in the Azura mountain range, since it is under our rule and is also a Devil Path force, my opinion is to completely eradicate this force. If it is a righteous force, then there is still room for discussion. However, if it is a Devil Path force, then our Haurangian sect will not tolerate it. Does anyone have any suggestions?" Yi Hauran was the sect master of the Haurangian sect. His strength was very strong. In addition, with the support of his family and Yi Tianzong in the Haurangian sect, he basically meant what he said. What's more, the people of the Haurangian sect had a kind of heartfelt disgust towards the Devil Path forces. Therefore, regarding Yi Hauran's decision to eradicate the Blood God Palace, the higher-ups of the Haurangian sect had no objections. In the eyes of the higher-ups of the sect, even if the Blood God Palace was a super force with an ancient inheritance, it would definitely not be stronger than the current Haurangian sect. The truth was just as the higher-ups of the Haurangian sect thought. The Blood God Palace had an inheritance from the middle of the ancient times. It was a Devil Path force, and at its peak, it had a supermaster of the 8th heaven of Wusheng. However, since the late ancient era, only the masters of the Marquis Wu realm and above could enter a small grotto heaven to hibernate. After the world recovered, it began to appear last year. However, the people of the Blood God Palace did not rashly announce its appearance in a high-profile manner. Instead, they first inquired about the situation within a radius of tens of thousands of miles. After learning that the mountain range they were in was under the rule of the Haurangian sect, and after inquiring about some information about the Haurangian sect, the Blood God Palace clearly knew that they were no match for the current Haurangian sect. This was because ever since the Blood God Palace went into seclusion, there were still some disciples left behind. However, after such a long time, their whereabouts were unknown. Right now, only the masters of Marquis Wu King Wu and Wu Zun had appeared. They were basically generals without an army and had no foundation. Compared to the millions of disciples of the Hao Ranjin sect, the difference was too great. Therefore, the Blood God Palace first took over the Azure mountain range in a low-key manner and abducted those low-level warriors who did not belong to any forces to strengthen the foundation of the sect. Then, after digesting them for a few months, they began to secretly expand again. Every time they took over a city, they would exercise strict control over it. Moreover, they would use vicious secret methods to control the various families in power in the city, preventing news from spreading to the outside world. If the Hao Ranjin sect had not directly sent masters like King Wu and Wu Zun to investigate the situation in the Azure mountain range for the sake of safety and speed, and thus discovered this phenomenon, an ordinary marquis might not have been able to obtain any useful information. Chapter 109. Since they had decided to completely eradicate the Blood God Palace, the Hao Ranjin sect did not hesitate. The next day, they gathered more than 100,000 Haoran disciples, all of whom were Wu Ling and above. Then Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue led the group, leading 100 Wu Zun, 700 Wu King, and 3,000 Marquis Wu experts directly towards the Azure Mountains. The 100,000 Haoran disciples, led by Wu Ling and Wu Zongjing, concealed their martial cultivation and openly entered the various cities controlled by the Blood God Palace in the name of Hao Ranjin sect, recruiting new disciples and investigating unfair situations. Then they quickly took over the various cities and began to investigate and capture the people controlled by the Blood God Palace. Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue led the experts from the Hao Ranjin sect, including Marquis Wu, Wu King, and Wu Zun, directly towards the Blood God Palace's headquarters in the Azure Mountains. After finding the Blood God Palace's headquarters, they left 300 Marquis Wu in charge of encircling the Blood God Palace's people who attempted to escape. Then, Yi Tianzong and the others immediately launched an attack. To capture bandits, first capture the leader. Yi Tianzong's primordial spirit searched for a while and found the Blood God Palace's palace master. Then he went straight for his target. He easily captured the palace master of the Blood God Palace, crippled his martial cultivation, broke his limbs, and knocked him unconscious with a palm strike. Then, after casually killing more than a dozen experts from the Blood God Palace, Wu Zun, he stood in the air above the Blood God Palace and watched the battle between Ling Xinyue and the others. From the situation of the battle, although the Blood God Palace had been passed down from ancient times, the experts from the Hao Ranjin sect were still much stronger. This was because Yi Tianzong's meticulously created, Haoran's true heavenly dipper technique was not inferior to any super factions or even Holy Land's martial cultivation techniques. This was especially true for Ling Xinyue, who had cultivated the boundless mysterious scripture. She completely crushed Wu Zun from the Blood God Palace. She fought against more than a dozen of Wu Zun's enemies alone, but they were all killed by Ling Xinyue in just a short while. From now on, the main character Yi Tianzong's divine martial heavenly technique will be changed to the boundless mysterious scripture. The author feels that the name divine martial heavenly technique is too useless. After killing the enemies, Ling Xinyue regained her cool expression. Then she came to Yi Tianzong's side and stood on Yi Tianzong's left side. She stretched out her hands and hugged Yi Tianzong's left arm like a little bird. Together with Yi Tianzong, they waited for the rest of the Hao Ranjin sect's battle to end. After an hour, the battle ended. All the experts from the Hao Ranjin sect had killed their enemies. Even those who wanted to escape were stopped by the Marquis Wu from the Hao Ranjin sect, who had been lying in ambush for a long time. Not a single one of them managed to escape. Seeing that the battle had ended, Yi Tianzong and Ling Xinyue descended from the sky. In the encampment of the Blood God Palace, they directly used the soul-sucking secret skill on the palace master of the Blood God Palace in their hands. After obtaining the location of the secret and hidden little cave secret land from the palace master of the Blood God Palace, as well as the method to open it, Yi Tianzong directly killed the palace master of the Blood God Palace. Then he led the experts from the Hao Ranjin sect and went straight to the location of the little cave secret land hidden in the Blood God Palace. There were two types of secret realms in the world. One was the space secret realm that was artificially created by martial experts. The other was the naturally formed Grotto Heaven secret realm. Both types of secret realms existed in the profound spirit world. The difference was that the artificially created martial arts secret realm could not absorb the chi of heaven and earth on its own. It required the creator of the secret realm to set up a spirit gathering array to keep the space secret realm from falling. As for the Grotto Heaven secret realm, because it was naturally formed, it could absorb the chi of heaven and earth on its own. Furthermore, it could help the martial artist comprehend some of the mysteries of the world. Other than that, the artificially created Grotto Heaven secret realm had a lifespan. The longest lifespan was 49,000 years. Furthermore, if one wanted to sleep in the Grotto Heaven secret realm to avoid the suppression of the outside world, they would need to use ice that was at least 300 years old as an ice coffin. Sleeping in the ice coffin would damage the martial artist's foundation and foundation. As for the Grotto Heaven secret realm, because it was naturally formed, it had some of the spirituality of the world. Sleeping in the Grotto Heaven secret realm did not require the preparation of an ice coffin. Furthermore, sleeping in the Grotto Heaven secret realm would not damage the martial artist's foundation. Furthermore, if it was not destroyed by external forces, as long as the chi of heaven and earth still existed, it could continue to exist with the profound spirit world. Therefore, the Grotto Heaven secret realm was much more precious and rare than the Grotto Heaven secret realm. For example, most of the sacred land level forces that still existed would have their own Grotto Heaven secret realm. The Blood God Palace was lucky enough to find a little cave secret land. Although it was only 20 miles in radius, it was really lucky. At the very least, it was much better than the Haoranjin sect. Yi Tianzong sighed and opened the entrance to the Grotto Heaven secret realm according to the specific method. According to what he learned from the Blood God Palace Master, there were 11 Wu Sheng realm existences sleeping in the little cave secret land. The strongest one had reached the 8th layer of the Wu Sheng realm. Such existences would leave behind a trace of consciousness even when they were sleeping. As long as their lives were in danger, those sleeping Wu Sheng experts would forcefully wake up at the first moment. Regarding this, Yi Tianzong did not dare to be careless. His goal was to take over the Grotto Heaven secret realm in one piece. Therefore, he had to eliminate all the people from the Blood God Palace as soon as possible. Otherwise, once a battle broke out, the little cave secret land would very likely be destroyed. Therefore, Yi Tianzong did not bring anyone else and entered the little cave secret land alone. After entering the little cave secret land, Ling Xinyue followed Yi Tianzong's instructions and closed the secret realm. She and the others waited outside for the result. After entering the Grotto Heaven secret land, Yi Tianzong scanned the entire Grotto Heaven secret land with his primordial spirit and sensed the powerful aura of the 11 Wuxing experts sleeping in the Grotto Heaven secret land. Restraining his own aura, Yi Tianzong did not launch an attack on these sleeping people, nor did he use his powerful primordial spirit to attack their primordial spirits. Because Wu Sheng had already reached divine transcendence, their primordial spirits were already very powerful. Yi Tianzong did not have the confidence to use his primordial spirit to destroy these Wu Sheng's primordial spirits, especially the strongest one, Wu Sheng, who was at the 8th layer of the Wu Sheng realm. After pausing for a moment, a sealed jade bottle appeared in Yi Tianzong's hand. Looking at the jade bottle in his hand, Yi Tianzong muttered to himself, "It's your good fortune to be able to die under the soul annihilation powder." After saying that, Yi Tianzong threw the jade bottle in his hand to the ground, not far away. When he threw the jade bottle, Yi Tianzong also disappeared from the Grotto Heaven's secret land and entered the immortal mansion. The soul annihilation powder was a very powerful poison, specially used to deal with the primordial spirits of warriors. It was very complicated to make and was also very dangerous. The soul annihilation powder was colorless and odorless. Once it was exposed to the air, it would quickly volatilize and spread in the space of 100 miles in a very short time. The effect was very powerful. Even the third layer of the myth realm experts might not be able to withstand it. Yi Tianzong only dared to make this kind of thing after he reached the fifth layer of the myth realm in his previous life. Because the materials were scarce, Yi Tianzong only had 50 of them in stock. They were all prepared for this life in his previous life and were used as a trump card. Of course, there were many other trump cards, so there was no need to talk about them one by one. The soul annihilation powder would take effect within a quarter of an hour. Because the little cave secret land was only 10 miles in radius, the soul annihilation powder, which could originally spread in 100 miles, spread in the space of 10 miles. The concentration of the soul annihilation powder increased, so the effect was naturally stronger. None of the sleeping people of the Blood God Palace in the secret land would be spared. Chapter 110. In order to be safe, Yi Tianzong waited for half an hour in the outside world before coming out of the immortal mansion and appearing in the paradise secret realm. Unsurprisingly, all the people of Blood God Palace who were sleeping in the secret realm had no signs of life at this time. It was dead silent. The true yuan in Yi Tianzong's body changed. The true yuan that Yi Tianzong released turned into a raging fire and burned the corpses in the secret realm to ashes, disappearing without a trace. Turning around, Yi Tianzong opened the exit of the secret realm once again and walked out. When Ling Xinyue and the others saw Yi Tianzong walk out unscathed, Ling Xinyue grabbed Yi Tianzong's hand and asked softly, "How is it? Are you okay?" Yi Tianzong smiled and said, "Don't worry, everything went smoothly. Nothing happened." Then Yi Tianzong said to the others in the Hao Ranjin sect, "The Blood God Palace's secret realm is a little cave, secret land. We have to bring this secret realm back." Seeing everyone's puzzled expression, Yi Tianzong explained the classification and differences of the secret realm. After hearing that the little cave secret land was more precious than the sect's space secret realm, especially that it could help experts like Wu Zun comprehend some of the mysteries of heaven and earth and increase the chances of breaking through to become sky being Wushang, everyone wanted to immediately bring this secret realm back to the Hao Ranjin sect to prevent any undue delay. After the Paradise secret realm was formed, it was attached to the profound spirit world. It was not impossible to move. As long as the person who discovered it had enough power, they could move the secret realm. The prerequisite was that they could use the power of space. In other words, they needed to be at least at Wu Shang's level and had grasped the profound meaning of space to be able to move the Paradise secret realm. Moreover, according to the size of the Paradise secret realm, the amount of mental energy and power required would increase. For example, this little cave secret land, which had a radius of 10 miles, only Wu Shang, who had mastered the space profound meaning at least, could move this secret land. As for people below Wu Shang's level, it was impossible. Because if they weren't at Wu Shang's level, they couldn't control space power Upanishad. With a layer of space between them, they couldn't even touch the cave in front of them, let alone move it. Only Yi Tianzong, who had long mastered the space profound, could move this little cave secret land. But since Yi Tianzong said it, it meant that he had a way to get Wu Zun and King Wu to help. In Yi Tianzong's immortal mansion, there was a divine artifact called the Space Binding Net. The main function of this artifact was to fish out or hold items with spatial attributes. Naturally, the little cave secret land was also within the range of the Space Binding Net. When the time came, they could use the Space Binding Net to hold the little cave secret land, just like using a fishing net to catch fish. Yi Tianzong would use the space profound meaning at the back of the secret land and drive the power of space to move the little cave secret land. The others would be at the front of the secret land. They just had to grab any part of the space binding net and pull it in front of them to drag the secret land back to Big Dipper Peak. But with just the people in front of them, it was still a little difficult. Therefore, Yi Tianzong arranged for Wu Zun to go back to Big Dipper Peak and call for all the higher-ups of Haoranjin sect. Only then would they be able to drag the Grotto Heaven's secret realm back within 10 days. After receiving the news, all the higher-ups of Haoranjin sect on Big Dipper Peak quickly rushed over. According to Yi Tianzong's method, it took them less than 10 days to drag the little cave secret land back to Big Dipper Peak and fix it next to the original secret land of Haoranjin sect. Yi Tianzong planned to merge the two secret lands into one after he broke through to celestial Wusheng. After dragging the little cave secret land back, the supreme elders of Haoranjin sect, who were at the peak of Wuzun realm, would go to the secret land from time to comprehend some of the profound meanings of heaven and earth contained in the secret land. They would strive to comprehend some of the profound meanings of heaven and earth that celestial Wu Shang needed to master before they broke through the seal of heaven and earth next time. They would strive to use the feedback of heaven and earth to advance in one fell swoop. After a month of dealing with the Blood God Palace in Azure Mountain, Haoranjin sect's attention was focused on the demon clan in Jinwu Mountain Range. For this reason, Yi Tianzong personally went to Jinwu Mountain Range to investigate and finally obtained more detailed information. The demon clan that appeared in Jinwu Mountain Range was not very strong. They had been in seclusion since the end of ancient times. The most powerful demon clan was 3 peak level 9 demonic beasts that were equivalent to the 9th heaven of Wusheng. There were a total of nearly 30 level 9 demonic beasts, which were much weaker than the demon clan in Haoran Mountain Range. In this regard, Yi Tianzong did not want the Haoran Orthodox sect to be in the middle of the 2 demon clans in order to avoid any future twists and turns. He might as well directly exterminate the demon clans in the Jinwu Mountain Range. For this, he paid another bottle of soul annihilation powder. The Cave Heaven's secret land occupied by the demon clan in Jinwu Mountain Range was more than 10 times larger than the little cave secret land found in Blood God Palace. Yi Tianzong had no way to move it, so he directly sealed it and left it for future use. After dealing with the demon clan in Jinwu Mountain Range, Yi Tianzong returned to Tiangang Peak and told Yi Haoran and the others about the results of the battle. In this way, in Haoranjin sect's territory, except for the demon clan in Haoran Mountain Range, the Xian Nyu Mountain Range, Demon Sword Mountain Range, Jinwu Mountain Range, and Azure Mountain Range were all under the control of Haoranjin sect. In this regard, Yi Haoran and the others decided to send 100,000 Haoran disciples to strengthen the strength of Haoranjin sect branches in Xian Nyu Mountain Range, Demon Sword Mountain Range, Jinwu Mountain Range, and Azure Mountain Range. After dealing with the demon clan in the Blood God Palace and the Jinwu Mountain Range, the Haoran lineage once again resumed its normal development. According to the established plan, the Haoran lineage strengthened the inspection of its territory in an orderly manner, as well as the construction of the Haoran lineage. As time passed, Haoranjin sect's strength became stronger and stronger. Just as Haoranjin sect was quietly developing and the Central Plains was in turmoil, Yi Tianzong came up with a plan of fighting Prodigy again. This plan provided a platform for the various forces to compete and vent their frustrations. At the same time, it was also to reduce the trouble of Haoranjin sect. Fighting Prodigy again actually meant that the Prodigy ranking and the mysterious item ranking would be used again, because Yi Tianzong had broken the seal of heaven and earth several times. The Prodigy ranking, Master ranking, 100 Flower ranking, and mysterious item ranking that he used to distribute through Tiangang Pavilion had all disappeared. Now, at least for the next 20 years, Yi Tianzong had no intention of breaking the seal of heaven and earth again. Therefore, all the new forces and the old forces would inevitably fight for their own interests. Since this was the case, he would add fuel to the fire and let the outstanding descendants of the various forces compete to determine who was better. Because of the expansion of the world, there were more and more forces. The 100 flower ranking and master ranking were no longer suitable. Therefore, there were 365 spots on the prodigy ranking. When the time came, the outstanding disciples of the various forces in the Central Plains would compete to determine the spots. Everyone who participated in the prodigy ranking had to be below the age of 50. Furthermore, those who were in the top 36 of the prodigy ranking would receive a mysterious item from the mysterious item ranking. It could be a divine weapon, a strange flower, a strange fruit, or a powerful pill, etc. However, the Haurangian sex strength was obviously not enough to control this plan of fighting prodigy again. Therefore, Yi Tianzong specially set off for the Zhou dynasty. Although there were some inevitable battles, Yi Tianzong still used his own strength to intimidate everyone in the great Zhou dynasty's imperial city. After some discussion with the emperor of the Zhou dynasty, they finally reached an agreement. The Zhou dynasty and the Haurangian sect would jointly build a prodigy city to hold the prodigy competition to determine the 365 strongest prodigies in the Central Plains. The prodigy competition was held once every 5 years.